All right, everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Camp Elasticity. We've got another 4 guests for you today, possibly 5. We've got Kayla Ferguson. We've got Chris Barker. We've got Mona Lucero coming in later, and hopefully Johnny Barber is coming in at 5 o'clock. My name is Zach Kopp, and I'm your host. And you are all my hostages. Just kidding. No, we're all friends here. And so Kayla, what would you like to talk about? I guess I'd like to say, you had an idea of how you wanted to begin. So.
I don't know. I mean, I can talk about myself all day. I'm more interesting to myself than probably to most other people. So.
Well, I'll say we met via this app called Shaper, which is a pretty cool thing. You guys might want to look into it. It's just a sort of a career advancement application. You can find jobs, you can network with people of similar career-based interests. And that's how I ran across that's how we made contact. And then you have recently hosted some forums, or maybe...
Well, yeah, I guess I could... I'll say the most exciting thing for me in my life right now, that's what we can call it, of all things. Of which there are many, but is my business that I started this year. I guess is probably the most interesting thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I guess to back up, I'm from Denver, born and raised here. I grew up down at Highlands Ranch, and I left in 2008 to go out to Los Angeles because I was like, I'm gonna go live in a cool city, a big city, with lots of people and lots of stuff. Because I grew up thinking Denver was like this, barely more than a cow town.
A cow town, that's what they called it. Yeah.
So I left in 2008, and I went out to California, and I was going to study journalism, and then that switched to film because you drink the water in Los Angeles, and you want to become, famous.
Makes
it's like
sense.
a weird thing that happens.
Look at that, Kayla. Sorry, I just noticed a flayed chicken.
That's what I was
Sorry to interrupt.
And so I worked in Hollywood for a while at a talent agency, which I don't know if you're in the entertainment world, but William Morris Endeavor Talent Agency, there's a couple of big ones that all the big actors and producers don't do their own business deals. Like, they have people that do it for them. And all those people who do it for them have assistants that are at the bottom of the totem pole carrying the stress of all of these high-level people. It's for me, it was a very toxic environment. It was glamorous for a second, and then I woke up one day and I was like, this is not... I can't live with this level of stress and anxiety for my entire career. It's just not going to work for me.
Can I ask? Is there any story of like a famous unknown name that mistreated or revealed him or herself as other than presented?
They're kind of unknown in the sense a lot of times the agents behind the scenes aren't necessarily their names aren't known. But I can tell you. Well, I won't say his name just in case this gets out there.
Right. Not Tom Cruise.
Not Tom Cruise, no. Any celebrity I met was real nice to me, actually. I don't know how they are really, but they were nice to me. There was one of the agents who had gotten a chicken sandwich for lunch, like his assistant went and picked up a chicken sandwich for lunch, and it didn't look like it looked online. And I knew this was his issue because he was screaming about it and throwing shit across the office and just berating his assistant over a chicken sandwich.
Wow.
And that was kind of my breaking point.
It's awful petty.
Yeah, I was like, there are real problems. There's like real shit happening in the world beyond this $12 Beverly Hills chicken sandwich.
Right.
I was like, I can't be in this anymore. It was my lunch break too, so I was sitting on Facebook, as any good...
Most of us do.
Yeah, when I'm bored. One of my friends had just gotten back from Turkey. She had just done a trip to Turkey. So, like, simultaneous to hearing him yell at poor Caroline, that was my assistant friend's name, next to my other friend who had just taken a trip to Turkey, and it looked like just the best life.
Devastation firsthand or something?
I was just, all of a sudden, somehow having that as my reality and that as a possibility out there, put this light bulb off in my head. And within 3 months, I had sold everything that I owned, my car, my computer, all of my possessions, and bought a plane ticket around the world. And I was in Tokyo. And it was like that fast. It was like, bye, Los Angeles. And I don't think they sell them anymore, but this was like 5 years ago. And you could buy a plane ticket around the world where it's good for 365 days. And you have like 11 stops you can make with it. It's like $5,000 or something. And I don't know if that's actually cheaper than buying plane tickets individually, but that's how I did it. Because then you can, as long as you go one direction around the world. It's good for a year. You can call and change the ticket whenever you want. So when I got to Thailand and I was like, I'm going to work here for 4 months at a dive shop, I just called and was like, cancel my ticket to India. I'll call you when I want to pick it back up again. So it was pretty flexible, and it assured that I had plane tickets to get back to the United States before I spent all my money. So yeah, in 2015, I went to Tokyo, Thailand, India. Actually, I ended up back in the United States for a brief time after India because of a motorbike accident that required a number of surgeries. Then I went back to Europe and South America, and then I got back here to Denver in 2016.
Right.
And went to my parents' basement because I spent all my money.
Right.
And I was going to leave because Denver wasn't a cool city, right? That's why I left in the first place. And then all of a sudden, in the 10 years that I've been gone, Denver became like a cool city. Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe that's what I was looking for. I got involved in a running group here because I'm also an ultra marathoner. Right. So I was doing 100-mile races out around here, and then I just ended up staying. And so that's kind of like the precursor to then the business that I've started, which was 2 years after getting back to Denver. But I was sitting at Yak and Yeti out in Arvada. It's an Indian restaurant out there. With my boyfriend, and in hindsight, I was being pretty, I don't know, first worldy about my complaint, but I was just kind of bored of having the same job and the same routine, and I was like, when I traveled, it was like this, and when I did this, it was like this, and I just miss being able to do that. But I have a job now that I actually really enjoy, so I'm not going to go quit and take off around the world again. And that was another almost kind of like light bulb moment, like having that complaint along with sitting in that Indian restaurant. I was like, I'm not traveling the world right now, but I'm at least having a little bit of like a cultural exploration just through food here in the city of Denver. And then I started doing some reading. Denver actually is an immigrant and refugee pipeline. As compared to a lot of other cities in the country. Right. So we have a lot of different communities here, and one thing that communities will always bring with them, regardless of where they're from, is food. Like they'll bring food traditions with them. So we have a ton of restaurants. We have a ton of different cultures to explore here. So in January, I started just inviting my friends. I'm like, hey, this month we're going to go to Ethiopian food. You should come along. And by March, I had 35 people showing up to these dinners. It like kind of grew like crazy. To the point now that it's actually a formalized business now because people give me money to plan these events.
And what's the name of your company again?
It's called The Same Plate.
The Same Plate,
yeah.
That's right.
And I call it that because the Ethiopian restaurant... Have you ever had Ethiopian food?
Yes. I have.
Yeah, how do you all eat? Yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah, the anjira bread, and when I was at the Ethiopian restaurant, I was just watching the family that ran this restaurant. It was like one mom and dad team, one was cooking in the back and then taking orders. So it was a very slow meal. You didn't go there if you were in a hurry. But I was just really intrigued by the people behind these restaurants because we have like hundreds, if not thousands, of these restaurants around the city. So I went and talked to the daughter of the owners because I just wanted to know more about them, where they came from. Obviously, Ethiopia, they were first generation here, and their restaurant was their livelihood. And I asked at the end of talking to her, I was like, what's one thing you'd like people in Denver to know about the Ethiopian community here? And she said something along the lines of, our people are just like our food. Like we would love to accept everyone into our community just like we all eat from the same plate. Or something like that.
I like it.
And so that's how, I was like, oh, well, that's the name. Like, that's perfect.
That's absolutely perfect.
So that's been since January. I do monthly events, and I do cooking classes with like Cuban chefs and Guatemalan chefs and Jordanian chefs, and that are all kind of in the Sun Valley neighborhood, if you know where that is, by the Stadium District.
Oh, right.
And people really love coming and just getting a little bit outside of their routine, but not doing something super crazy, because everyone's still going to eat food no matter what. And so that evolved into TEDx Mile High was 1 weekend ago, just over a weekend ago, which is the regionally organized TED event here in Denver. Yeah. It's actually the biggest in the country, so shout out to TED. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, actually, I should say that this podcast is an outgrowth of, I wanted to do a TED. I joined Toastmasters.
Yeah.
I got into the idea of starting a local, like, I'll start my own TED Talk, right? And I started sending out invitations. I wanted to start a TED Talk. And that didn't pan out. And then I wanted to start a talk show, and it didn't pan out, and now I'm doing a podcast, but it all kind of shares the same genesis. So
Yeah.
shout out to TEDx Talks.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should come. They do them every 6 months here in Denver, I think. So they have one coming up in June, and there were 5,000
I'm sure I'll
people.
hear about it.
There were 5,000 people at this one this last weekend. It's one of the biggest. It actually is the biggest in the country and one of the top 10 TED events in the world. Right here in
Wow,
Denver.
No kidding.
Who knew, right? I had
Big
no
deal.
idea when they were like, "Do you want to exhibit at TED?" I was like, "Sure." I had no idea what that actually meant, that there would be 5,000 people there.
So did you speak, or did you just
I
have
did not
a
speak.
booth,
Maybe
like-
one of these days, but they do like interactive exhibits in the beginning,
Oh, right.
like in the morning time and then at lunchtime. So I just worked with a couple of other groups who do kind of food oriented type things, and we put together an exhibit. It was like really just kind of a marketing thing for us.
All right.
And we created it as an experience because the exhibits were intended to be interactive. But that was a month ago, which was the first time I was really, I guess, marketing to people outside of my friends and family group.
Right.
So that was like kind of a stark change in how things were running. But yeah, that's been my entire year, and it all evolved from, who knew back in 2015 when I was like, screw you, Hollywood, and your chicken sandwiches, that it would have turned into a business.
I love
right? Sometimes life
And you
weaves
took a trip
along, and then
around the world in the meantime, too,
Yeah.
between Denver and Hollywood.
Yeah,
That must-
26
It
countries.
must have been incredibly exciting. Did you make any connections on your trip around the world? People you would not have met otherwise who have influenced your life in crucial ways since?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many friends. I like, I'm proud to say, actually, I have friends in 30 countries around the world. You know, that's pretty cool. I can go anywhere and find people, basically, that I had traveled with. Because I met other 20-something backpackers who were super poor. We were sleeping, like, I shared a bed in India with a stranger. That's how poor we were. It's like, they had double booked, and they asked if I wanted to pay for the more expensive room. And I was like, no, I don't really have any money. And so I woke up, and there was a man, like, just a stranger in the queen bed with me. That was
Alright.
also a traveler, which is probably
No
not
funny
something I would
business,
like
just
for the rest of
sharing.
my life, but at that time
Cutting
it was like
corners,
a great
making ends
experience.
meet.
Yeah. So I would say every single one of those people, I can think of some impact that, or some story they
I
told
mean,
me.
was there
or
anybody
some-
that like you met in Bombay who provided you a job that you wouldn't have had otherwise in Portland years later, that kind of thing? I mean, there probably are. They may not have even discovered them yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I feel like those things are like constantly showing up. I did find someone that I dated for 2 years, and those are always impactful.
yeah, sure,
Right?
yeah.
Like, relationships are always impactful. So there was that. We met in Tokyo. Then he moved to Paris, and I happened to be going to Europe at that point, and so that was kind of serendipitous in that way.
Well, I
trying
feel
to
like
think
I
what
feel
else.
like we need to. So
That's
you-
all right.
Yeah.
We need to get Chris involved a
that's
little bit because he's
fascinating.
sitting over here. It's true. It is fascinating. I just want to keep variety. So, like, just tell me what's your favorite restaurant? Speaking of
Food.
food
Yeah.
Food-esque.
and cultural exchange, if that happens to be part of the program.
Yeah, well, I've done a little traveling, but I would have to say what I think is fancy food. Fancy food is all right. We didn't go out a lot when we were kids, so Mr. Steak was like the high point of the bi-monthly. You know,
Right?
got to go out. The girl next door waited tables there, and we got like a free Sunday or something if we went there. She slid one our way, so that was like the big deal. We didn't really go out, but lately my go-to like spot has been like Cuba Cuba.
Oh, I haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
That's
Over
Cuban,
right by the
Cuban
art
food?
museum?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I worked with, I was waiting tables at a place, one of the chefs that helped open that. His sister still owns it and everything, so we used to go there a lot. And that's kind of, I didn't have a real appreciation for Cuban food. For me, it was all kind of like Spanish influenced food. There
It's
was no
all unknown
difference.
to me
Yeah, it was
still.
all, you know. And so I kind of got a hankering for it going to a
I
taste.
want to see
Yeah,
now. It's
so-
close to the art museum.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's
Oh, I
like
want
three
some,
old
yeah.
houses
It's-
that are
yeah.
connected together, and it's
Oh,
got
wow.
a great bar.
It's really cute.
Yeah.
I
So when you
love that
guys when you
restaurant.
guys were little kids and you heard about Cubism and Cuba, did you think like everyone in Cuba was shaped strangely and all the
I did not.
imagery was just
That might be a uniquely
Cubist.
you thing, but I
No,
like it.
I just made it up, but I thought of that today. I wonder if there's a little kid somewhere. There probably is, but you know, hopefully I don't break the illusion. He's not going to listen to my podcast.
Probably not.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. When I was a kid, I didn't think about those things in the way that people might think
It
about
might
them
be more
now.
of an adult amusement,
Yeah, yeah,
You tell your kids.
the kind of thing that would occur to an adult more than a kid.
yeah. But yeah, when you have a chance, that's a great restaurant.
Yeah,
I
so
love
I
that
would
one.
say
yeah.
like going along with the Ethiopian theme, we used to like take a dart and throw it at East Colfax because there's so many, and they have like card tables for eating. Dining room is like card tables and folding chairs and things
Yeah.
like that, and you could just throw a dart and there's 100 of them.
I wonder if it's
And you
all
go to a
been
different one.
gentrified out of
I
existence
don't know. It's
yet.
been a
I
little
hope
bit of
not.
time since I've lived
you
in
know,
Capitol Hill, so
I mean, neighborhoods change always.
Mm.
Nothing's ever static. But I would not say that part of the city has
Colfax is
become
ever gonna be
gentrified yet.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
And I mean, people have their comments about Colfax.
when we have
Yeah.
guests, I'm sure we'll have
And
us.
Oh,
East
he's gonna
Colfax.
tell. He knows. He's
Yeah.
the authority.
And so yeah, there's all sorts of opinions about it, and it's a gold mine for culture and food.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
is. If you're willing to go over there, there's everything over there.
This is good. This conversation is
Yeah.
foreshadowing Johnny's arrival. Hopefully,
Yeah.
he will arrive.
We'll see
Well, I
how
have
he.
friends who've
yeah.
who've lived in big like real cities,
Yeah.
LA, Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
New York, and they're amazed by Colfax
Yeah.
because you can have the street is the same from where it starts to where it ends. It's the same and it never changes. And they pour
Wow.
millions and millions of dollars into these development projects, and it's still the same thing
Yeah.
from beginning to end. And I have friends who've lived, they'll be like, well, in whatever in Chicago, there's a street and it goes through a certain section that's liquor stores and the immigrant restaurants and
Yeah.
things like that, and crazy used car lots. And then it'll go through like a really rich neighborhood or something like that, and the whole neighborhood, including the street, change. And Colfax, from beginning to end, it's the same. And it's
Do you
been the
know
same
about
since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Psychogeography. Anyone here? Does anyone know about psychogeography?
That is not familiar.
It's
to me.
it's a science or a pseudoscience that was coined in the early 20th century by Guy Debord. I'm not even sure the dates on this, but the idea just that every geographical location has a personality. So the idea that Colfax might actually just be this part of land that is the way it is, like it's always going to attract a certain vibe of consciousness or
that
whatever.
seems to be a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what makes it
Just
so charming.
suits
though.
psychogeography suits Colfax is suited to a psychogeographical analysis in
Yeah.
that way.
Totally. And I actually encourage people to go to Colfax. I mean, it's definitely different
Oh,
than
you
other
gotta
parts of
see
But
it.
there's, if you want to find anything that's not gentrified, that's not, just kind of run of the mill, Colfax has just so much to offer. I love hanging out there. That maybe isn't a popular opinion, but
No, I agree.
yeah.
So let's get off that topic because Johnny is the boss on that
Yeah,
one.
he can come.
He'll be coming eventually. But you recently proposed to your boyfriend and you're engaged
Yeah.
to be married now. What a great feeling that must be.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He was a bit surprised, but ultimately said yes.
So you
winning.
proposed in a particular way.
So I love cats. I really love cats. Again, I know that might be an unpopular thing.
I love
but
cats.
Yeah, I'm a big cat fan. And so to make a long story short, I ultimately convinced him to get another cat. Like I brought 2 cats into the relationship, and I always referred to them as my cats. And I was like, well, we could get our cat. And I also
Mm-hmm.
just wanted a kitten. Like I just woke up one day and I wanted a kitten. And I finally convinced him.
Sure, that's not the maternal urge.
Maybe it is,
I
although
hope-
that's as far as my maternal urge goes.
All
Towards
right.
kittens, it doesn't really go much further than
Might
that.
take care of it. Might take
Yeah.
care of it.
But the way I was able to convince, actually, the way we came to an agreement, I don't like to use words I convinced because that sounds dominating, but I was able to come to an agreement with him that we could get another kitten if he got to name it. So he named it Tony Stark because he's a huge Marvel
Iron
fan.
Man.
Yeah. So his name's Tony. Our little kitten's name is Tony. And again, most of my life is kind of just characterized by like ideas that pop into my head that I then just go act on.
Dig it.
But it was the same sort of thing. I was like, oh, Tony, this is so cute. I went online and saw this little like Avengers collar. It has like an Avengers symbol on one side. And then I was like, I could just engrave the back of it as "Will you marry me?" and give it to him.
Oh.
It'll be perfect.
Wow.
And so that's what I did. And he was not expecting it. He was very surprised. He was like, I actually have to go for a run and then I'll come back. I was like, cool. Well, I'll be here once you get back and think about
Wow.
that. And so he came back and he decided it was a good idea. And his parents were very excited. My parents
Well,
were
what
very
a
excited.
great story.
Yeah,
that
so
is.
that was my proposal kitten, which is why everyone's like, "Where's your ring?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't buy myself a ring for my engagement, and I don't really care if I'm being completely honest. It's more the sentiment than anything else." But
That's a great story.
yeah, so that's why
Thanks
I'm
for
engaged
sharing
with no
that.
ring because I don't know how it works. I've never proposed to somebody before, so
Right.
I'm kind of just going for it, you know.
Yeah, I know.
So-
I haven't had much luck with it myself. I tried it once. It didn't work out the way
Oh,
I thought.
I'm divorced as well. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I've tried it once and failed, and here's the second go round.
Right.
You know.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, our little proposal kitten definitely is maybe the cutest engagement pictures you've ever seen. Just his
Wow.
little face.
Do you turn up any of the pictures, like show the back of the tag?
I showed the back, but he doesn't even actually wear the collar. He hates wearing a collar.
Oh, all
So
right.
fortunately, it only cost me $10 to go buy that. Thinks he's not actually going to
Smooth.
wear it.
Mhm.
But it was more of just the idea of it. So, yeah, that was. I proposed at 6:30 in the morning. Then went and exhibited at TEDx for this big marketing thing for my. It's been a whirlwind of a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Now here we are talking about it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you touched down here in the basement of Mutiny Information
Yeah,
Cafe for
yeah.
a few minutes.
So
This is my go-to spot. I love this place.
yeah.
It's a great place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
You and I remember this place from a long time ago.
yeah, I used to host a variety show here.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I remember you came to them a few
Yes.
times. Thank you.
How long ago was that?
I don't know, like maybe a couple years ago?
2014.
5 years
5
ago?
years ago.
God.
That's
Wow.
coming up on 6, y'all. It's
Yeah,
almost
no
2020.
kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, snap
I
out
know.
of my
It's almost a
days
new
here.
decade.
Actually,
Yeah.
It is, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy how time flies. So, well, what about? I feel like I
Yeah, so-
talked
it's
a lot.
great.
So
now it's
you're,
your turn.
I hear you're starting a musical act, and
I have
I've
a,
already booked a show for you. I'm pretty sure in the middle
Yeah,
of
yeah,
December.
we'll have to
let me
get
know.
together and
Let me
talk
know
about
what
that.
this sounds like.
so
and-
it's a when I was a kid growing up, my friends, they did the usual like you tell great stories, this, that, and the other, and then and like I just tried to be funny because I was really super skinny and wore glasses and had braces and was really nerdy, and so you had to like develop
Compensate,
Yeah, you
yeah.
had to compensate. So I would get my all my friends. I'm the oldest, so all my friends had older brothers and sisters, and they had like the truly tasteless joke books and all these really cheesy mad comic. Like the best
I
jokes were
remember
mad
those
comic books, and
days.
there are these like little things you just flip through them, and they were all like one-liners and really stuff that's probably not appropriate now for anyone.
Right.
And I would memorize these jokes when I go over there. All my other friends that went over there were like, hey, did you see the older brothers Playboys they had? And I was like, no, I was looking at his Mad magazine trying to get the jokes out.
Yeah.
So I'd sit in the playground during recess and I would tell jokes, and tell stories. And they weren't like, I didn't like have a routine or anything. I would just tell funny stories and then throw these like stupid.
But it
Random
worked. You
things in
developed
the
a following.
Yeah, well, so I had that going on, and then when I got older, I had friends say, "Do you like Garrison Keillor?" And I was like, "Well, I know who he is." And they were like, "Well, we don't really like him because our parents make us listen to NPR and stuff, but you tell stories." Like, so I was kind of had that in the back of my mind. So recently, I started these. I have these couple routines, and they have a little guitar in them, and they're mostly stories about the guitars that I have, and the
All right.
people that I associate
All
the
right.
instrument with. And then there's a little. I
Like
don't
this
play very-
old house, kind of this old
Yeah,
guitar.
it's this old guitar with like some, and I'll play like little snippets of songs and then kind of like stop and ramble about different things going on in between
Do we get an
the
example?
notes. I did not bring my guitar with me,
Well, I told him like it's probably too cramped.
which
And
is
I
fine.
didn't- I don't know if
'cause
it's
I actually
true.
was,
I think it's
more
true.
time
It is too cramped, isn't
Okay,
it?
well, if we can't do it now, where do we go? Where do we go to?
Zach. Is
Oh.
working on
Now one of the guests wants to call in instead. We've never done this.
that. Here we go.
I think you could.
You could, yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to hear what. Let's see. There's probably a speaker attachment on here somewhere.
But yeah, do you have any places you go while he's working on that?
He's
like,
working on it. He's working on, I believe, the Cannabis Church.
Oh, you were
So-
saying something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's my agent working on it.
Yeah.
He's my booking agent.
Yeah, the Cannabis Church
I
said
know the agents.
they have an
type
opening
very
in
well.
mid-December.
Yes.
They
so
didn't give me a specific
be-
date. Oops.
To be determined.
Um,
And this will be my first outing. Mostly, it's been me in front of a mirror and microphones
Okay.
and doing my bit.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
so-
how are we gonna? I mean, I could always just text.
I believe
The
once again, I
Cannabis
believe-
Church is a funny thing. Like they're not allowed to advertise. So all I
Why
can
not?
do is
'Cause it's-
because of the weirdness of cannabis legalization and the idea of hosting an event.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Even if it's and it would be a consumption event because it's a service, and it's private property, so it's really not. There's no sense to it, but you just can't invite people. You have to. Oh shit!
There we go.
Let me see.
Hi Mona, I was trying to text you back and say like, yeah, let me look for the speaker attachment because I don't know where that is yet, but you're here and we're not live. We're just kind of recording, so. So I can just do this like this. This is Mona Lucero I've got on the phone. She's a local fashion designer, and we're here with Chris Barker and Kayla Ferguson. And so here's Mona. Say hello to Mona. Hi Mona.
Hi, Mona.
And she says hi guys.
Hello.
And what? Okay, now I think you're on speakerphone.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes, you sure are.
Sounds okay?
Oh man, it sounds great. Yeah.
Oh,
All right,
good.
21st century technology. It's like magic.
Magic.
So you just finished Denver Fashion Week.
I did. I did that on a week ago, like on Sunday. So it's been about 8 days since
Right.
we finished it. Yeah. So it was very exciting. A lot to do. Now I'm just. I'm happy it's done because the lead up is so intense, and then when you're done, it's kind of a relief. But I think it went well.
All right, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear my cat. He's meowing a little bit. I just got in
We
a
love
few
cats
minutes
here.
ago.
We were just talking about how great cats are. So hi, is that Valentino you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Hi, Rudy.
Yes. Rudy, that's right.
Well, yeah, I didn't expect it to be this blizzard or anything. I'm just having the worst of luck lately. But like, no, it's not a total hang-up because 2 guests have arrived already, and hopefully Johnny Barber's going to show up around 5
Cool.
and
Yeah,
see it
Johnny.
through. Oh, you know Johnny too, huh? And we were just talking about Colfax too, so he's got a good setup.
Oh, cool.
And
Good to hear.
yeah. So I'm not sure what else to ask. It would be easier. Who else has questions for Mona? Who else?
Yeah, I'm not super
I'm
well
sorry.
versed on the.
I'm sorry, Mona. Well, so Mona is an independent fashion designer
Yeah.
here in Denver, and you were just you were talking about fashion sense, I think earlier.
Well, maybe
if
I
not
just don't really
design.
have a whole lot, so that's not really my world. So I'd love to know, like, what Denver is known as like a fashion forward city. Like I know Paris and London and all these places have big fashion epicenters. Does Denver have that too? And I just don't know it.
Not really,
Okay.
but we do have a lot of, there are a lot of people who are involved in fashion here in Denver. There are actually a fair amount of designers and a lot of others who are involved in fashion in other ways besides designing. There's a, it's a pretty big community, and I think it continues to grow. It's a little hard to make things happen here in terms of business, doing a fashion business here because we don't really have a fashion industry. So in other words, you can't just, walk over or drive over to an area where you can just buy fabric and trims and things, whatever you might need. And then there's not really any cut and sew. I believe there's a few, but not very many cut and sew manufacturers. And on top of that, one of the difficult things is that most people in Denver aren't really that interested in fashion.
Oh.
If they're more, maybe more along the lines of Patagonia or something like that.
Along the lines
So-
of what?
Patagonia?
Like outdoor
Oh,
clothing.
yeah,
I see,
yeah,
I see,
yeah.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outdoor
It's
clothing brands.
Patagonia is like the high end of outerwear, but there's plenty of other things that people might find, that they want to wear that is definitely more mountainy, more, outer active wear type of clothing. So,
Right.
yeah, but I don't do any of that. My clothes are more fashion oriented, but I have a store, excuse me, I've been doing this for a while, so I had a store for 2
And
years.
I've heard you
closed
referred
that
to as a
store.
post-punk designer. Do you identify with that classification?
What did you say?
I've heard you called post-punk design.
Oh, well,
I've
that's
heard
nice.
people
I
refer to you as
appreciate
a
that.
post-punk designer. You
Oh.
you affiliate with that?
I love that. I love that, but I've never heard it before.
All right, I might just be
That's my
making it up.
take. I
I'm pretty
appreciate that.
I'm
I
pretty
like
sure
it.
I've heard that somewhere, but
Wow, that's
it
cool.
could be entirely my own doing.
Yeah. My clothes are. So you can go to my website or you can
Oh, yeah.
go onto the Instagram and you can see what I do. But basically,
It's
So-
MonaLuceroDesign.com, right?
no, MonaLucero.com.
.com, no design. MonaLucero.com. All right.
And then if you go to Mona Lucero Official on Instagram, there's a lot of photos there, so you can pretty much see what I'm doing. And then I have a new Instagram that's called Shop Mona Lucero, which is the name of my boutique. And so my clothes are mostly women's clothing. There's a little bit of guys, but it's women who are like, you might wear it, some of it you might wear to work. If you have like an office job or you're in the arts or something like that. Or you might wear it on a date or go to a wedding, or if you're feeling somewhat dressy. I do have a few gowns, but for the most part, it's clothes that you actually, you want to live in. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I provide.
All right.
I always tell people that the clothes are more, that what I do is more about the experience. So I want people to feel like when they wear one of my designs that they have had a great experience, like they look good, people are complimenting them on how great they look, not necessarily just the clothes themselves, but how they themselves
The clothing will bring out your inner
Yeah.
good-lookingness.
Yeah,
I like
good
it.
looking or just, you feel good in
Just-
them, so, I get that a fair amount, and, I think my job is also to, encourage people to enjoy what they wear, have fun with it, and, I'm not necessarily, I'm not harsh on people. I'm not like really a fashion snob when it comes to what people wear, but I do, I'm always like, try something else every once in a while.
All right.
It's good for the soul.
All right. So your shop is actually very close to the Denver Art Museum. Do you ever eat at Cuba Cuba?
I have.
What do you think of Cuba Cuba?
I like it.
I'm gonna go there
So
soon.
you're
I really
missing
like
out,
the
I guess.
sound of
Have
it.
you been there?
No.
No.
Yeah.
All right, you guys can go out a little bit.
So these are two people here that are interested now in Cuba Cuba. Well, I've never had Cuban food. I don't really know what to expect. What's your
I'm not
favorite
an
dish
authority.
there?
I've only been there twice, but I was there recently, and I don't remember what I ate necessarily, but I do remember what I drank. They have like like you can buy like a whole like sampler of all these different rums, and that was really
Liqueurs,
good.
Cuban liqueur. Wow,
Yeah.
rum. My gosh.
You got a
Yes,
place to
rum,
check
yeah.
out now.
Yeah, rum, yeah,
Yeah, I guess
Anyways,
that's
really good.
that's a place I gotta check out soon.
yeah.
Probably not for the rum though. What do you know? Like, did you have a chicken dish or anything? I mean, I'm just gonna look at the menu and look for the word pollo or something.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
They have more. I feel like Cuban dishes are more.
I guess be
ham-centric.
seafood or
I mean, there's
ham
chicken,
centric,
too.
huh?
But they're like,
Pork.
yeah,
Pork.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
that's a
right.
misconception that all food south of Texas is the same.
No,
down
of
Antarctica.
course, no, of course. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's South American food that is
Yeah.
probably like unheard of in comparison to anything known in
Guatemalan
Europe.
food has its own thing. Costa Rica has its own thing. Every country has its own. That's why I started my business, to introduce people to that.
Oh
Which is
yeah.
great.
Tell
Yeah.
Mona about Kayla just started a business to acquaint people with food from other cultures.
Well, yeah, and I won't.
Oh, cool.
And
I won't
that's a
speak
very
on it too
simplistic
much
definition.
more, but yeah, it's I call them curated cultural food experiences because I
wow.
think it's a perfect introduction to another culture and a perfect way to meet other people. I mean, any experience in which you're connecting with other people, like a first date or a wedding or literally any holiday, food is always present. Like, food is just something that connects people. There's something about it, right? And so you can just meet people, you can meet other communities, and you can, for me, get out of routine. I really hate routine, so just trying something new every month is is exciting, and there's actually a lot of diversity in Denver, and people don't see it that way. There's way more than people realize. It's just pocketed. You just have to kind of go find it.
I think more so too in the last maybe, I don't know, probably 15 years, because there was a time when there wasn't a lot of variety, but I think there's a lot now.
Yeah.
What's the name of your business?
I call it The Same Plate. I think my website, I know. I was like, what's my website? At thesameplate.com.
How do you spell it?
Like the THE and then same, SAME, plate, PLATE, like a dinner plate. Yeah.
And how do you, if you wanted to use your services, how do you go about it?
You can email me, or I have events up on the website for people to RSVP to. And what I've started doing is selling tickets to events. That's the cost of dinner plus like $2, so it's like maybe $3. Just so I can, because when 30 people show up, restaurants like to know that. They're like, we really are happy that you're here, and also we need to know. So I started to get, with just like casual RSVPs from people, it was really hard for me to organize with the restaurant, because sometimes like 10 extra people would show up, or 10 people wouldn't show up, and then the restaurant were kind of left like scrambling last minute. So I changed it to like a kind of a ticketing type of thing, where you just pay for your food ahead of time. It means you're coming also, because when we're preparing food, to not come last minute is kind of challenging. And so it doesn't cost anything really extra than just going there yourself. But also, like, I do stuff with the chefs and with the owners of the restaurant to get people like connected to that culture as well. So it's like a tiny bit more expensive for a whole experience as opposed to just a meal.
Right.
It's great.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk to some of my friends about this. I think they would be really interested.
All
Yeah,
right,
bring
I hope
'em
I made a
along.
connection
Yeah.
between two
That sounds
parties
so
here.
cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves food. That's the thing. There's very few people who don't want to go eat a meal. Actually, there's no one who
That's
doesn't
for
want to go eat a meal.
That's for
Very
sure.
So,
That's so cool. And are you a chef yourself? How did you get involved in it?
yeah, I'm not a chef. I do love to cook at home by myself, although I don't really cook for big parties of people. I really just got started on this because I did a 26-country trip around the world and realized the first thing I would always do when I got someplace was go find some food to eat, just to kind of like get my bearings in that city. People that I met in hostels, we'd go to dinner. So it just was always the staple thing that introduced you to a new country, to the new people that you're with. So I was like, I can just have that same experience here in your own backyard. People don't have to spend $5,000 to go to Thailand. They can just do it right here. And it's not the same as traveling to Thailand. Like, to be very clear, I do not think I'm taking people to Thailand when we go to these dinners. But it's just like an experience that people can have in that realm. That's real. That's, $20-$30 and 2 hours worth of time.
Wow, that sounds great.
Yeah. This is my,
Very cool. I like
Sounds
that
like
idea a
a
lot.
winning idea.
I mean, it's not that novel. It just, I don't know when else I've done it yet, really.
Well, then it's novel, right?
Yeah.
The novel of the
I've not
moment.
heard of it. Yeah, I haven't heard of anything quite like that.
Yeah,
So it
I
sounds
never
really
have
cool.
either. Yeah. So, yeah.
Are you self-employed right now, Chris?
I am.
What's your stock in trade?
My stock and trade, my stock and trade since I was 17 has been bartending and waiting tables. And recently I've just been kind of side hustling with different friends, painting, odd jobs.
Jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
You just said something to me sotto voce, Kayla. What did you say?
I know just that I'm probably going to have to head out soon.
Okay, I figured.
But that's all. You guys
Yeah,
can
and
keep
that's
talking without
fine.
me.
Just let
I'll
us
just
know.
slip
and-
out behind you, actually.
Yeah, you don't
guys,
even
you guys
have
keep
to.
on going.
There we go.
You
Okay.
keep the conversation rolling.
Is there room enough for you to slip
yeah,
out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, I guess my last question before I slip out of here is like,
Are you still there, Mona?
as a fashion designer
Okay.
in Denver, what does like a day in the life of you look like?
Sorry, what was the question?
As
I
a,
heard
as
the
a
first part
fashion
of it.
designer in Denver, what does a day in the life, and day in your life, look like?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what's happening right now. It's always kind of changing a little bit, but I'm getting ready for the holiday season, which is always, it's always busy just in general for me as a designer, but as a retailer, it's definitely, hopefully will be busy. But, so for instance, yes, I'll tell you about what I did yesterday. I was pretty busy. So I started off in the morning figuring out what I was going to do, what needed to be done, and kind of did a short list. and had to change my voicemail to make sure that the hours were working, because people are really picky about that. They hate it when your hours aren't accurate, and they hate it when you're not there when you say you're supposed to be there. So that took a couple hours because I couldn't figure it out. Comcast wasn't giving me the right information. Then I opened, and a few people came in, so I have to be, nice, which I don't mind, but you still have to be nice. You always have to be nice.
That's right.
Greet people and explain what you're doing, what it's about. A lot of people do already understand it. And I have these skirts. They're really cool skirts, but they're frayed on the bottom, so they have, on the hem part. So they have this basically fraying, like if you, say when you have denim jeans and they're fraying at the bottom because they're hitting the floor or something like that.
There's a great Jonathan Richman song about that. Have you ever heard it?
No, I haven't.
My jeans, they are a fraying. Look it up. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt.
That's good. So these skirts have fraying on them. They're intentionally frayed. So there's 7 new skirts. So I'm just sitting there talking to people and, trying to help them, in the shop. In the meantime, fraying the skirts. So that was a big deal for me yesterday. That's one day in the life.
All right. Well, thanks. I'm afraid Kayla had to split. She suddenly got a call and she raced out of the room. Unexpected.
I can't wait to check out her business.
It sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to hook the two of you guys up. I hope that she checks out your business and you make some sales mutually.
Yeah, I definitely know a few girlfriends who would really be into that, for sure.
All right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, thanks for calling in, Mona. I'm sorry I didn't expect this crazy blizzard or whatever is going on upstairs by now. But
I know.
Hopefully
Sorry,
it's really not
sorry
that
I wasn't
bad.
able to make it.
Oh, that's all right. I really appreciate your calling in anyway.
Well, and I'll let you go
So
then
old
and
school.
enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I really want to hear this when you're all done, because it sounds like you have some pretty interesting people on. I'm sure, as
Including
always
you, and
do.
it wouldn't have been half as good without you. So thanks very much for being one of those interesting people. I promise I'll get you
Thank
the
you.
link as soon as I've got it.
Thanks. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of the time, and be careful when you leave.
Oh, my Lord, I will. Thank you, Mona, and have a great rest of the evening.
You too. We'll see you later.
All right,
Bye,
so
Zach.
long,
Bye,
so
Chris.
long.
Bye.
Bye, Doug.
That's so old school. It's so Larry King of me to take phone calls.
Man, I'm sorry
Now
that
we're taking
we didn't
calls.
expect this, and so you were in the middle of explaining about Garrison Keillor.
Oh, yes. So,
and thanks for your patience.
No. I don't go out very much, so this is not like I've actually been to through a good friend of both of ours, Peter Yumi.
Yeah, Peter.
He's so the last couple months I've gone and seen a couple of shows with him, and that's been really nice. I went and saw Morrissey, and I went and saw Stereo Lab with Peter Yumi. So he'd be a great guest to have on, by the way.
Man, I had an OK Cupid date, and I had a really great date with this person. And then the next day she's like, "Hey, I got 2 free tickets for Morrissey. You want to come?" And I was like, I don't know. Morrissey's been accused of being a right wing. I was just like, and I never liked Morrissey anyway. But I didn't end up going. And she met her new boyfriend there, and now they're going on some trip around the world together or something, for all I know.
You're like, God damn that, Moz.
Well, not exactly. I mean, I really don't like Morrissey, so it's all right. But I'm sorry to interrupt. How was your experience?
It was great.
Morrissey.
Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful. I ran a small business with a Smiths Morrissey fanatic, so
Wow.
more familiar than I ever thought I'd ever be. So with
And I don't mean any harm. I mean, I never
take it.
got hooked
He only went
back
on
when
one. He
there
went
was
on-
no stigma, and then there came stigma,
I
and
think
I was
he
like,
had a-
all right.
I think he had a producer I think he had a producer in his ear, because he would just get ready to start on a roll and then he'd pull it back. He would get ready to say something that might be written up in the paper the next day, and then he'd kind of rise up and start to say something, and then you'd see, I think he had the little bug in his ear saying something's like,
Oh, like, don't make your weird right-wing comment, Morrissey.
yeah, just want to pull it back, because
I don't
did.
know.
It looked like he had, they wear their little they wear their little preamp thing in their ear to hear what's going on, to hear their sound levels and everything. I think there might have been somebody backstage that was like, no.
Morrissey.
Why don't you bring that back a little bit?
Oh man.
But it was great. He's a rock star. He's a rock star, and
Well,
you don't see a lot of. I mostly see bands play. Guitar,
bands.
bass, drums, and they're all kind of on the same.
I have
level
to
as a
say,
front
like,
man
I don't know
and
if it was
stuff.
Morrissey or Johnny Marr, but it was one of those guys that was like instrumental in the New York Dolls reunion, and I'm glad that happened. So I can't say like I hate entirely on like the whole thing, and I don't even hate Morrissey. It's just kind of
Yes.
But you were talking really. We shouldn't even
No, it's
have like
fine.
got in
No,
this
it's
weird backwater here of Morrissey. But you were describing your new act.
Yes. So anyway, I had these different friends, and this kind of ages me, which I assume we're all in the same kind of age group here. But I had friends who, as I would tell a story, would say, "You kind of remind me of Andy Rooney on 60 Minutes because the way you would, or Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey always started off.
These are all lovable old men.
Yeah, well,
I'm
old men
intrigued.
that we had to listen to because our parents, because I would never, my dad, we didn't listen to music in my house at all. We listened to a lot of talk radio. This is before, like, talk radio became
Right, yeah,
huge.
yeah.
So this was all, like, Larry King and Paul Harvey and, and this even predates, like Howard Stern and stuff like that. So, yes, grumpy old men. And, but they were always like, Paul Harvey always starts off with the end of the story. And then so then she became a millionaire, and she came from a pile of shit and became a millionaire to discover the world. And I'll tell you
More in a minute.
after the message. I'll tell you the rest of the story. And so they were always like, you always start off at the end of the story, like I'm in the back seat of a car with this girl doing mushrooms, and she takes her shirt off and looks like two jiggly aliens.
And
Wait a
everyone's
minute,
like,
wait a minute, I'm
"What?"
driving, hold on a minute. So anyway, 2 weeks ago, and they'll be like, wait, you told the punchline of the story before you tell the story. So anyway, I had these friends that would compare some of my different musings to these people. So in the last, while I've been kind of floating around and doing these odd jobs, I had a lot of free time in my hand. So I picked up my guitars that I have, some old junky guitars that I have, and started messing around on them. And I tried writing songs, and that really didn't work too well. But I had like little snippets of songs, which would work perfectly with stories around them. And these guitars I've had for a million years, so I kind of came up with stories about these different friends and roommates and
That's great.
girlfriends and different things.
Can you play and tell stories without it?
I have
messing
to.
with your...
I have to stop
Uh-huh.
and tell the story in between.
Oh, all right.
snippets. I can barely sing and play at the same time. So
Uh-huh. But it works?
it works. I think.
Yeah?
I've been. It's kept me busy.
All right.
It's kept me busy throughout the.
Right on. Well, I look
Last
forward to
year or
that
so.
performance.
So, yeah, and I when I first started, I've never done anything like this before. I haven't done any kind of stand-up or. I've played in a couple bands where we've played in front of people, but I played bass, so I was always like in the back, which is where I was comfortable, or a rhythm in the back, so I never was like front. I could always kind of hide, and so I've never really performed in front of people before. So it's.
Are you going to freeze up?
No.
on
No, I'll
stage?
be fine. Actually, I think.
You're like, for
'cause
my first number?
No, actually, because part of the whole reason I started doing this is I kind of came to a point creatively. I have a lot of friends that various levels of success or how they would. Some people are actually they're actually making a living at what they're doing. Other people are known, either famous or known throughout the region or just known in their genre or whatever. And I was kind of like, wait, I could maybe do something like that because they're doing it. So
You totally could.
So I figured this is something that kind of comes naturally to me. Like I said, I tried to come up with stand-up routines. Didn't quite work.
It's sort of one of a kind.
So yeah, I was like, you know what? I do tell okay stories. I do talk to myself a lot. I keep myself entertained. I can tell a decent story. I guess I tell them in a very roundabout way that reminds them of these, like you said, these grumpy old kind of icons of talk
I
radio
said
in Denver.
lovable because I'm thinking of these as like these treasured, like patriarchal.
Oh yeah, because
sort of
that's what we had to
icons.
listen. Like I had, I would never in a million years turn on KOA and listen to
Hmm?
Paul Harvey, and I hated watching 60 Minutes after football was on Sundays. But that was like the penance that we had to pay. Like you got to watch all the Sunday football games, but then we had to watch 60 Minutes, and then we could watch other shows that were on TV. But that was like our educational
Wow.
moment. So we had to watch 60 Minutes. So anyway, I was always like, and I was entertained by it, and I watched it.
Yeah, I remember. I enjoyed news shows
Yeah,
as
so,
a kid.
Um,
48 hours,
Yeah.
60 minutes.
yeah, so we had to do all that. So anyway, that was the impetus for this whole thing. And then I didn't know where to reach out to I didn't know if it was appropriate for like an open mic night or things like that.
Uh-huh.
So then I remembered that you did that thing 4 or 5, 6 years ago here. Those some people.
Oh, it would have been perfect for
So,
this
yeah.
thing too, man.
Yeah,
I think it
so-
would fly at any open mic night.
So
You
I
might
did-
take people by surprise
Yeah,
to some
it's a
degree,
little
but
bit.
that's part of the pleasure of it all.
So and there are and once again I've never done open mic and I didn't know they're all about 15 to 20 minutes long, 2 or 3 things I've come up with so far. So I needed,
Usually an open mic is, well, on musical it's different, I suppose.
yeah. So I didn't know how. So I reached out to you and was like, hey, do you still do those things? And you said, yes, you do. And
Well, I said, no, but I am doing this weird
Yeah.
thing at the, I
Yeah.
might be able to get you. So if that does, and that has come through, and if it works out timing-wise, that's like a done deal. You're just
Yeah.
going to have to send invitations, and you're going to have to tell people to show up at a certain time, and not after that, because the door will be locked.
yes.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. So I have some people that I've mentioned it to who said they would like to step out. and do
That's
something
great.
Along those lines. So.
Yeah, so Peter Yumi, I haven't been in touch with the guy in a long time,
Yeah.
like 10 or more years. So what's he doing these days?
He's got a big boy job, and he's married, and he's got these. I believe he's been written up in Westward as one of the Colorado. They do their Colorado Creatives series. He's been written up in that. Started off doing some really basic collage work, and now they're these giant pieces. And I believe he's now I don't know what they call on the board or a permanent member of the New Pirate
Oh, all right.
gallery that used to be was it up in Sunnyside neighborhood? Now it's on West
I
Colfax.
hadn't kept track. I'm glad they're
Yeah.
still in business.
They're still in business. They're on West Colfax along the Arts District in West Colfax.
That's great.
So, they do. So he's showing there. So he's doing very well. And anyway, so he's part of that old group of people. When I moved back to Denver, I met you.
Yeah, there used to be this place called St. Mark's, and there's still one location
There is, but not
on
like the original
17th
one.
and Race, but there used to be one on 14th and Market, and it was really, I called it the classroom because a lot of people would hang out there who were supposed to be at class at Metro or CCD
Or
or
high
one of the
school.
different institutions nearby, would just kind of hang out in St. Mark's all day instead.
That's right.
But it was in the 90s, and it was really kind of a magic time. You worked there at the time, and there was a whole lot of crossing over between different genres of the creative community, like all the comedians, all the musicians, all the writers. Everybody would hang out together at St. Mark's, and they all knew each other.
Yes.
Or they all knew elements. Each community knew an ambassador from the others. Thanks to St. Mark's, which
Yes,
was like a
that's-
melting
that's
pot.
That's where I met. I grew up in Denver, and when I left for 8 or 9 years, much like
Is that
previous
Johnny
guest.
Barber? I thought I heard voices.
our voices, but it's not.
No, all right. There's other inhabitants of this mysterious basement.
Yes, that are.
This is actually we're actually in an underground. It's have you ever seen those storm drainage tunnels? Have you ever walked through Denver? You
Yes.
see those. So this is actually like a secret. No, I'm just kidding. It's underneath Mutiny Cafe. For a second there, I was imagining like this endless labyrinth of tunnels, and you'd hear people talking sometimes. And
This reminds me of like a bunker,
it's really not that complex.
kind of like We need a little radiation sign outside and the cots and canned food down here.
I wonder what kind of screening process all these paperbacks have gone through.
I don't know. I've been reading them the whole time, actually, that we've been down here.
I wonder if there are any, like, overlooked gems.
I'm sure there are.
I bet there are.
One of those.
See, now I hear footsteps, and I'm
Somebody's going back
curious. I
upstairs.
don't know.
I can't remember his
And
name.
there's, like, this whole little lounge over there,
know,
man.
it's-
I
yeah,
accidentally
I
walked
think,
in. I didn't know there was a lounge. Not an elaborate lounge. But I'll leave it mysterious for those of you who haven't yet taken advantage of
Well, I'm gonna take
Mutiny's
pictures on the way out
affordable
here, show my
recording
kid.
services.
Yeah, my son thinks that Mutiny is just the coolest thing in the world to walk in here. So I'll take some pictures.
Just
on the
the
way out.
upstairs, yeah.
I'll take some pictures on the way out because he's enamored with what would be going on down here.
And how old is your son now?
He's turning 12 in a couple months.
All right. How's he doing in school
He's
and
doing
life?
very well.
Glad to hear that.
Well-adjusted individual.
You mentioned taking a picture. I'm gonna snap off a couple
I'm
here.
gonna take a couple on the way out because he really would love to see this down here.
Yeah, so I don't know. Johnny Barber's supposed to be popping in here in about a minute. He might be a little bit late. What was it like working at St. Mark's? That's a different perspective. I know. I started to
Police
really
fanatic.
dislike that guy
And,
when
then, and it was one of those same things. It was like I love the police, and then Sting did his own thing, and there's a couple good things. Then he got too Sting.
just a personality problem,
became
like just
such a-
too much of a diva guy.
Yeah,
kind
then he
of too
became
much.
like that, and then I've been the same thing. I've been rediscovering, going, wait a minute.
But they're a pretty good
He used to
band.
be like, he used to be that guy that was struggling and doing.
It's funny, man.
Yeah,
All
guys.
all the Stings, his early songs are about being lonely and
I know,
misunderstood, and he's like
I think
this.
I read a Rolling Stone interview where he said something that he could have tantric sex for like 48 hours straight or something
And
like that.
still
I
feel
remember-
lonely.
And I remember I folded up this is years after he'd been on his own. I remember I like folded up the magazine. I was like, I'm done with him.
Meh,
I don't need him. I was like, I
don't rub it in,
I was like,
Sting.
come on, man, really? Like, that's what you're talking about now? But I've definitely rediscovered the police.
Oh, Sting.
recently.
But I like that. That song "So Lonely" is a really good song.
Yeah, but St. Mark's was just working down there was amazing. I met when I had been out of Denver for going on 10 years, and when I moved back, I didn't know anybody. And I remember I grew up kind of pseudo suburbs over by DU,
Hmm?
and I lived in the mountains for a long time in a small mountain town, ski town. And then when I came back to Denver, I was like, I'm gonna live in Capitol Hill because I always loved Capitol Hill.
All right.
Like, I'm gonna live in Capitol Hill. I'm gonna work someplace, either downtown or in the city. I don't want to go there. So I found a studio apartment, and walked in there, and asked if they were hiring. They said no, and I was like, "Well, can I work here anyway?" And he said yes.
No kidding.
So they didn't.
And they ended up paying you once they started making money.
They were just opening up their new store, and then they were like, "Well, wait a minute. We're opening up our new store. Maybe we do need somebody."
Oh, all right.
So I was like, "All right." So I'm your man. So it did allow me to travel. I did get stuck in the. Then I got stuck working at coffee shops.
Hmm.
Because then there comes a time where you don't want to go back to school or.
I never learned to use an espresso machine, so I escaped that, Bardo. But
I've always I've been waiting tables and tending bar and working in coffee shops up until a year ago.
and how's the odd job plan?
It's going
working?
well. It's going well. It's allowed me to. I've been fortunate enough to have my parents moving on in life onto more expensive things, so the less expensive things that they've owned have come my way.
Huh.
Automobiles and
Oh, that is helpful.
different
Yeah.
furniture, different things like that. So I haven't had to go make any major purchases. Like every time I go, oh, my car's breaking down. I need either money. I need a new car. Or something like, take our old car. We're going to be doing this.
All right.
So
Do you have any buffer of savings?
no,
No.
I'm just pretty much floating right now.
Hmm.
But hope to change that. But yeah, so I have enough people need an extra set of hands to do, and I'm capable of. I have a minimum amount of skill in enough areas that I can
Excellent.
help out doing whatever.
Best luck to you always.
Side hustle around with that, and hopefully, So like I said, it's given me time to work on some of these different things that I've always kind of had in the back of my brain, knocking around, that I was feeling like, I'm gonna do this now. So
Right on.
that's where that's at.
Well, Johnny's a few minutes late. I hope the
That's
snow
right.
doesn't keep him away. I don't know where he lives.
If he's a Colfax
He's a
fan, he shouldn't
hardy
be afraid
type.
of anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be daunted. But it might have started snowing really badly by now.
Yeah.
There might be
We're
like
down here. We never
3
know.
feet of no, probably not. Probably not that badly.
Forget the bunker.
So the thing about the Cannabis Church, they don't pay.
Yeah. No.
So I can't get you a
no,
paying
it's
gig,
fine. I'm stepping out for the first time, so
and I can't
I'm
pay.
just glad. I'm just glad.
and I'm glad that you're here on the show
I,
for free.
When in the few bands I've been with, we never, you never make. I don't know if anyone here's been in bands, but we.
I've never made money at it.
I've never. But we did open for. We opened for 16 horsepower.
Hmm.
Bluebird, and we were so excited to open for because we played art galleries and all the warehouses there in Rhino before.
Was this
Rhino.
thanks to a Mark connection?
St. Mark's?
Yeah,
Actually,
well,
this predates
Tina
that. It's
and
a Joe
Mark.
Sampson, Aaron Roberts, Porlolo
Oh, okay.
connection from.
Because isn't Mark was friends with one of those people in
She
Slim
whoever
Cessna
the lead,
anyway. I
The
don't know
lead
if
for
it's
16 horsepower Woven Hand. His wife and himself used to come into Watercourse Foods, the
Oh.
vegetarian restaurant where I worked at, and she'd heard us on Radio 1190 or something,
Uh-huh.
and she was asking around because she heard that people who were associated with that band worked there.
what was the name of that
It
band?
was called the Dog Paloma.
Hmm.
And anyway, we opened for them, and we were so excited. We got our free drink tickets, right, which is just like magic, So we got rolls and rolls and our free drink tickets, and so we were just getting loaded and just drinking for free. And we got to open, and then we stuck around and watched them play. And then as we loaded up all our gear and we're leaving, we were like driving away, and I can't remember his name, the front man for. But he came running out and he was like, your money, and it was like,
Oh,
it was
good
like
for him.
$800,
Oh, right on.
And we were like, what?
Gosh, I can't think of his our name either. I even watched a movie about him.
Yeah. So, but it was just
Very
it was-
talented gentleman.
Yeah, he came running out and was like, "You guys, you're walking out without your money," and we were like, "Oh yeah, that's right." And we thought it was gonna be a couple $100 or something.
Wow.
It was like $800, and we were like, "What? Really?"
That's
We didn't
great.
know. So,
Mana.
yeah, so it was the only time, but. So I don't expect to make any money. I got enough stuff going on to float. But and may I mention how the original name that I knew you under?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So Zach Kopp used to go by Henry Alarm. His pseudonym was Henry Alarm Clock.
It's
and that was a
true.
'90s thing too. It seems like all the girls, I knew a girl, she changed her name to Marionette, and people would, that's Lenny with an I.
Huh.
And stuff like that, and people would have just one
Well,
name.
I
Everyone's-
changed mine before Peter Yumi changed his.
yeah, I did.
I feel like I started a
crazy
trend.
names that I was like, that can't be their real name. It's like, no, but then I never found you. I didn't know your real name until I showed up. I was like, hey, it's Henry Alarm Clock. You're like, well, actually,
Don't call me that.
You're like, that's a lifetime ago, and I was like, oh, okay, well. And Peter Yumi's the same way. I don't even know,
Does he? Well, he still goes by Peter, though,
He
right?
still goes by Peter, yes.
All right.
So yeah, it was one of those things where.
I've considered reverting. I mean, just because it's so like attention getting, and
It was,
no one forgot it for so long.
yeah. So, and I didn't even know. I just was running around town, and I ran in here, and I saw you, and I recognized you. I was like, Henry Alarm Clock. You're like, actually. I was like, oh, I wondered because sometimes I look up people on, when you do that Facebook look up. I wonder.
Oh, yeah.
And I was looking up Henry Alarm Clock, and I was like, I don't know where these people are anymore.
I never used to know what your last name was
Yeah.
either, so it's
Just
a
Chris who
good thing Mutiny was here.
slung coffee at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's what I still do. So yeah, but that was an enchanted time of
Oh, it sure was, wasn't it?
carefree, cheap places to go, cheap places to live, and I made good money there too. So it was all right. And people drank tons of coffee all the time.
I was so unhealthy, man. I used to sit there all day and
Smoke.
drink
You
coffee.
could smoke in there.
What the hell was? And I remember, it used to be legal to smoke.
Yeah. We
My
had, to go
Lord.
we had to go put out trash fires all the time because people go
Oh,
dump their ashtrays in
man.
the trash, and you'd be standing up front and be like, "There's a fire in the trash can."
Wow,
Go book into the back and with a bucket of water and pour it out.
crazy.
Yeah. So
But I'm grateful for the they enabled me to do that. You know, unhealthy stuff for a number of
all
years
we
were
did
like
was-
important years where I needed to do that. I guess.
yeah, and if we knew that people weren't going to come down, we'd smoke at work. Like we'd go sit in the back when it was slow, and I'd smoke a cigarette and put on the ashtray. We smoked spirits.
Oh, I guess I
which burned
remember
forever.
seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, we smoked spirits, which burned forever, so you could like put in the ashtray and go up, make a couple coffee drinks, come back, finish
Yep.
while you're behind the bar working. It's like, I'm sure that's some sort of major health code violation. But there you go.
Well, somebody stamped it out. I don't even know who to blame, but like they decided no more smoking,
Yes.
and that's good. I quit smoking eventually myself, so
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too,
miss
yeah.
it exactly.
It was a girl. The
Yeah.
girl was like, the only thing I don't like about you is you smoke, and so that was like, all right.
For me, I think it was just turning 30, and like someone told me, I think my mother told me, like, did you know that if you quit smoking at 30, you can like undo all the damage?
Yeah.
And I've bummed cigarettes aplenty since turning 30, but I think that was when I really quit smoking.
Yeah.
Because I used to do a pack a day, and just like somehow I paid for that. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine.
We couldn't afford it now, that's for sure. But yeah,
Wow.
so we'd smoke and drink, and
I think it's just when you've decided to be a guy who smokes, you just find that money every day somehow.
yeah.
So like if you apply the same dedication to whatever other cause that would require it making money, it would probably work too.
I was amazed that just along those lines, kids would show up who we called them. We called those GPC, those cartons
I
of
remember the
GPC.
GPC,
We called them
yeah.
gutter punk cigarettes,
Yeah.
And these kids would show up with rags, and they had money for a cup of coffee, and they'd have a pack of smoke.
They'd have their case of GPC.
Yeah, and you were like, what the? They had the money for that, so they would come and hang out.
Crazy priorities.
And my main concern about work was we had like the 8 CD changer, the 8 CD tray,
Hmm.
and I remember my biggest concern was my playlist for the day. What 8 CDs am I going to take to work today? Am I going to put them on random? Or am I going to play them all the way through? And I remember I played.
What a soft hardship that was.
I know, it was like, that was
And
my
at
big
the
thing.
time,
And if
it
I
was
forgot
like,
my
"Ah,
CDs
it's
at
so
home and I had
challenging
to
every
listen to
day
somebody
I have
else's
to-"
music, if I left my CDs at home and I had to listen to somebody else's music, like somebody leave their little case there, I'd be like,
Damn it,
just
I gotta
ruin
listen
the
to
whole
Enya
day.
all
I was like,
day,
I gotta listen-
fucking-
I gotta listen to, if it was some girl or somebody who was just listening to I just listened to whatever's on the radio. So I was like, oh God, I can't do this. But, and I remember one time, some kid in the back came up to me and he was like, this music's already been played today. And I was like, that means you've been here for like 8 hours. So go home.
Wow.
Like if you recognize
I
the
remember
music,
being there long enough to notice the same
it's
song.
like, oh wait, the song that means you've been here for like, that means you've been here for like.
I don't
8
think I ever
CDs of, like,
complained.
90 minutes of music. So, other great personalities that have come out of St. Mark's. John Babcock,
Right?
who's
Broke his neck.
broke his neck, and he's more creative and more active now than he's ever been. in his
What's he
life.
doing creatively these
He does
days?
digital manipulation.
Hmm.
He takes images and does these really cool, using the different computer tools that he can actually work. He does these just kind of these random, but he's got his own style to him. And he collects, now he's become a collector of random, old typewriters and just random
Hmm.
things that you would find like in a turn of the 20th century type shop. In
Does he
London or
ever
something
show
like that.
any of his productions?
He has. He's actually done some collaborative work with Peter Yumi
Oh.
at a couple of different galleries.
No, that's good to know.
Some kind of interactive, kind of random, crazy stuff that he did with Yumi several years ago. So, and he's kind of a known character
Yeah.
in Denver, and those
Another former employee of St. Mark's,
St.
so
Mark's,
everyone
and
knows him.
And he's studied theater, and he has monologues that he has, very extensive monologues that he's never performed to anybody but his friends. Which
Oh, I'd love to
one
hear
of those
one.
things where you're like, oh man, you got to do it. And they're brilliant. And it's one of those things like, all right, well.
I ran into him at Kmart last, and that place has been razed and
Yeah.
removed since, but he was in high spirits.
Yeah, yeah.
Years and years and years ago. I think I was buying like the cheapest cell phone, like a $20
Yeah.
cell phone.
That would be the place to go.
John Babcock unexpectedly right there.
Rolled up.
Yeah, well, I think he was already there.
Yeah,
He must have rolled up. I mean, he suddenly was there. He must have stealthily
yeah.
made an approach. Yeah, well, I wish John Babcock the best.
Yeah.
I hope he's doing very well
Yeah,
tonight.
so I will definitely give him a shout out to the link.
Yeah,
This-
definitely.
this comes out
I'll
because he-
share it as soon as I've got it. And that'll be really pretty soon. I'll have a shareable link pretty much right
Yeah.
away,
Yeah,
even if it won't be uploaded anywhere officially for a little while.
yeah. John actually, when I was married, John actually married my wife and myself.
No kidding. I didn't even know he was an ordained minister.
He got ordained somewhere on the internet, online, and we were going to have somebody else do it, like somebody who's actual judge do it. And he was like, I can get ordained, and in Colorado, you just sign your name to a piece of paper and you're married. So it's not
So you just need an officiant more
just
than
an
like
officiant to
yeah.
run the ceremony. And
Mhm.
he decided that we got him to do it. And I don't remember.
Well, that's so great, man. I should
So-
start my own business.
He,
All
Yeah.
you need is a piece of paper. I'm gonna look this
Yeah.
up.
yeah.
Because I've been trying to go into business for myself in some way that's profitable, and I've thought about like, well, I should become a notary, but then you have to pay all this money and go to school, and I mean, I might do that too, but to be a minister, to just like say, I'm the minister.
I'm the new
I
minister.
mean, my father was a minister. I could probably, I mean, gosh, I don't know. They'd probably look me up and be like,
Yeah.
this guy is some weird freak. but like, I can probably play it off, you know?
Yeah, he did very well.
I'm very articulate when I want to be. I've got a master's of fine arts in writing. I got some nice clothes. Gosh, no, I'm sorry to
Clean up
interrupt
nice.
you though, but like,
No.
hey, I didn't
Clean
know
up
this was
nice, yeah.
possible.
Here we go. Then you could definitely go back to your old name.
You might have to like sort of perpetrate this upstanding personality though,
Yeah.
if you want people to give you any business.
Yeah, or just be if you just
Or I could be the hipster minister. Like,
Exactly,
look,
that's what I
man,
was gonna go- I
all
was
it
actually
takes is
gonna
a
go
piece
there.
of paper. I'm an intelligent guy. I'll look at
Yeah.
you. I'll see you exchange your vows. You sign the
John
paper.
was
I got the
actually-
paper. I'll take a picture of it. There it is.
John had
$250.
John had crazy. He's bald like I am, and he just had that like crazy ring of hair, and he had it kind of all tousled up, and
Like a
Yeah.
monk's tonsure.
kind of like that, but just more like kind of like a
Like Bozo the Clown.
but it was all like muffed up like somebody had tousled his hair or something,
Oh.
and he had the tics, the nice tics, and kind of the halting speech because he was a little nervous too, and everyone was
Wow.
laughing. Everyone knew him, and this is before he was in a wheelchair, so he was very animated and making jokes and stuff like that the whole time, and I was a little. I wasn't afraid to get married, but I was just nervous standing up in front of everybody, so I was standing like 10 feet away from my bride
Proper
to be.
place. Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was like, you're gonna move in,
Come a little
kept making
closer
these
here.
jokes, and she was like standing there looking at me, going like,
Oh,
I take
Barker.
like these little baby steps. And I was just nervous about standing in front of 200 people,
Wow.
but it was very fancy and traditional type thing, he was very generous and funny about the whole thing. But like, why don't you step up to why don't you get up here too, Chris? And I was like standing way over there. I was like, why don't you go
Aw.
up here? And then I moved, and then like all my friends that were standing up there had to move with me, 'cause
Mhm.
best man, and then like everybody kind of. So, because I started off like way over here, and Sarah went up the line behind me, and of course I'm using my hands on, but nobody else could see except for you.
Well, I'm sure they can follow. Like, there's
But,
a line. There's behind the line.
Yeah. So anyway, as I moved up, everybody else had to kind of move up with me
Mhm.
because I was standing too far back. So.
And you still keep in touch with Kristen? You're on good terms and everything is
With
cool?
Kristen.
Yeah, is Kristen not the woman that you
No,
married?
no. She moved to New York. No, she was a St. Mark's employee.
Yes.
Dated for 4 years.
Yes.
Traveled Europe. Dated. No, this was a woman named Annie who
Uh-huh.
I met.
I don't know Annie.
No, you don't. I met her.
At St.
several
Mark's.
years- No, I met her.
No.
At my brother's bars right now.
Oh.
I was
that's
in
a
there
magic
looking for
place.
John Babcock.
Uh-huh.
He told me he'd be working that night. He wasn't. It was Fat Tuesday. I went swinging in there. I knew everybody who worked there, but John wasn't there, and it was packed because it was Fat Tuesday.
Neil Cassidy's half brother wasn't
Yep.
working there at the
No,
time, but he
exactly.
used to.
Yep, I was very familiar with that place, and John was working the door, and he wasn't working that night. And the place was absolutely a zoo, and I was like, it's a Tuesday night, what the hell's going on? You know,
Great
like,
burgers there too.
Great burgers. I ended up working there, tending bar there
Oh,
for
no
several
kidding.
years. I was just getting ready to head out, and the guy was working the doors like there's a seat at the bar. And there was actually a seat at the bar, which there never is. That was
Ah.
like those were like the prime seats to
Yeah, you
We
wouldn't
got
think it
those.
would last very long.
Yeah, so I was like, I went and sat there, and the girl sitting next to me turned around. I was like, oh, you waited on me at like 3
Oh,
different.
perfect. Let's get married and divorced and have a
Yeah,
kid.
Exactly. We'll do the whole. We'll do the rounds. So, yeah. So I have a. I've worked at all the. I've worked at all the iconic Denver places. I
Uh-huh.
worked at.
Have you worked at the May DNF Tower?
No, I have not.
I haven't.
My
either.
only place I haven't worked at that's kind of on my bucket list of place to work at is someplace like the Mayan or the Esquire.
I haven't either worked at.
I have
either.
friends that have worked there, good friends. But I've
Uh-huh.
worked at St. Mark's Coffee House, and then I worked at Watercourse Foods.
Wax
for a long
Tracks?
time. Never.
Hmm.
All food places.
Oh,
Watercourse
okay.
Foods, and then I worked at my brother's bar,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this girl came into brother's bar one time, and she's like, "You've waited on me in 3 different phases of my life. When I was in high school, you waited on me at St. Mark's. When I was in college, you used to wait on me every weekend at Watercourse Foods, vegetarian. And now that I'm a young urban professional, she worked downtown. And she'd always swing by my brother's bar on her way out of work, and she'd swing in there.
So it's sort of like she's progressing in life.
She's progressing in life.
They're
and
just
I'm
kind of
just
switching
serving her
jobs.
these different jobs. And I was like, oh, I guess that's a compliment.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Worked at the Tatter Cover for a while.
Oh
so
wow. You'd think I would have worked there. I tried.
I know.
A couple times, you know. It
I
just
worked
didn't
at
take-
the cafe there, but yeah. So I've worked at all these like iconic places. And
Mm-hmm.
the place I remember going like, God, if I could only squeeze in a couple movie theaters.
Those are the two to squeeze in, Esquire and
I was like, if I
Mayan.
could
Those are
work at one
the
of those
most quality
places.
theaters I can think of.
Never worked in in all the little indie record stores are mostly. I mean,
Can't except for Wax Tracks.
Twist and Shout.
Oh, Twist and Shout isn't. Yeah, I guess it's still indie.
Yeah, I mean, they were across the way from the
They're still
Tatter Cover
indie.
on Colfax, and all those guys.
They're an up and comer.
Yeah, all those guys. And, it's funny because they have the movie theater there. The
Mm-hmm. SIE.
SIE movie theater, and then there's a Tatter Cover, and then there's Twist and Shout. So
Mhm.
and some of those people work at all 3 of those places.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're like, oh, tonight I'm the projectionist here, and then during the daytime I'm serving coffee or working at the bookstore. And
So it's
some of those
convenient
people,
for
some of
those
people
people.
are everybody just kind of walks around to their job in that
Mhm.
like little area right there. It's another great little spot on Colfax.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't go out as much as I used to, and I've sort of lost track with what's going on the, all the hot spots anymore.
You
You
just
know.
gotta jump on the 15 and
Well, I'm in Southeast Denver now,
Yeah.
but it's easy to catch the light rail down to
Yeah.
South Broadway, and I'm sort of, sometimes I'll go to like Colfax and take the bus up Colfax. I hate the damn bus though.
yeah.
I've
bus
become
is-
spoiled.
I took the bus to see Morrissey. I was the best dressed guy in the bus. I
Right.
got all dressed up, and
Nothing wrong with that
The-
bus. It's a bus. It's
the number
just
12
a bus.
that starts off in South Denver, their last stop is right a block away from the Mission Ballroom
Right?
in Rhino. So I was like, I got all snazzied up, and I was like, God, am I gonna drive down there? Am I gonna Uber it, or drive and park? It's gonna cost all this much money, or it's gonna be like $6 in quarters
Mm.
to take the bus. So I got all snazzied up and
Just take the bus.
took the 12, got off, walked to the show.
Nobody messed with you when you're on the bus.
No,
they might
no,
have
but I remember
that
looking
boy
around, I was
dressed
like,
all
hey, I'm
snazzy.
Dressed up, and then
Right.
got back on the bus and.
I love that
Took the bus
public
to the show.
transit in Denver is so reliable. It's so great compared to almost every other city. And there's only been a few that I've lived in, but the bus in Austin, for example, would sometimes be like half an hour late, and San Francisco is really questionable. I don't know if I even trusted it enough to take it more than a few times.
I mean, the only other place I've taken public transportation is in New York, which everything runs on time. And
That's good to
the
know.
whole city runs on that. It's like
It's a fast city.
yeah, and then in Europe everything was, there's nobody owns a car. Everyone takes their whole cities are built around that. So very reliable.
In Amsterdam, and I guess it's Amsterdam, that city built all around bicycle
bikes,
riding and like public
bicycles.
bicycles shared.
The best looking cops in the world. Most beautiful. They'd ride by on their bikes, and it's like this guy and this girl, and they blonde hair, blue eyed, beautiful people. And I remember going like, God, these cops are so. Cops look like supermodels here. So.
Well, Chris, I don't know what Johnny Barca's doing. It might be really snowy out there. What's your favorite cultural thing right now, like pop cultural thing going on right now? Music, movies, books.
Okay, I have.
Doesn't have to be a favorite, just something that's got your interest.
Well, our boy, and you know Stefan Donahue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stefan. I used to be a roommate of mine. He got me into kind of like this brutalist modernism, Soviet era, like 1917 to, I guess, I don't know if it ever, till whenever, but this kind of like early 20th century brutalism, minimalism type thing. He used to make these posters. And he kind of got me turned on to the art and architecture.
I've seen some brutalist buildings. They're pretty intense looking.
Yeah, it was just
they're definitely trying to make a statement.
Yeah, they were there, and just this, and also, so anyway, he kind of turned me onto that when I was a roommate of his, and just recently I kind of rediscovered that art.
So let me
like
just stop and say,
propaganda
for
art.
the listeners in the future who hear this in the future, look up brutalist building. Just look it up on Google
They
and
weren't
see
joking.
some of these pictures.
It's a very well.
It's an apt term.
It's a
Yeah.
very apt term for it, yes. And now, of course, they're all crumbling and falling apart, so they all look.
And is this
That much more
mostly an
coordinated.
Eastern European phenomenon?
I believe it is. There's a couple. Then I think there's a couple of buildings downtown that.
In Denver?
Yeah, there's.
Really?
I think it's the Federal Reserve
Huh.
Bank down there. They built that in the 50s. It's been called brutalist architecture.
It's been called brutalist
And it's still
architecture.
there.
The Federal
I
Reserve
believe
Bank?
it's the Federal Reserve Bank.
All
It's
right.
not the Mint. The Mint is old. The Mint's like from the 20s. I think it's the Federal Reserve Bank. I think it was built in the 50s. And it's just all concrete with slit windows in it, and it looks
Uh-huh.
like a giant. And then it's got the metal. It's got the.
Yeah, they just look
reinforced-
like the castle of an evildoer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're
Exactly.
very
Like the evil.
forbidding, and they're very not trying to be other than brutally
But I don't think it
present.
came across quite. I don't think that it was. A lot of concrete.
Hmm.
I think it was meant to withstand nuclear blasts and different things like that. But I've kind of
Yeah,
rediscovered.
they're very
a lot of these
formidable
things.
looking.
Yeah, there's the propaganda that's involved and all. Like you said, they were making a statement when they built these buildings. They're supposed to be imposing, and a lot of their. I just was interested in.
Like usually your architecture wants to be sort of sleek and nice,
Yeah,
and it's
these
sort of
things are-
back up against the side. It's not trying to jut out too much. Brutalist buildings are more like just,
Yeah.
I'm a building.
I'm here.
They got a grudge.
Yes. So anyway, I've been kind of rediscovering that that art is, and the propaganda posters and different things like that have kind of intrigued me of late. And every time I'll show a picture to my son of some propaganda, some Soviet art that has a lot of different meanings in it, and my son will that make a great album cover. Make a great album cover. That make a great cover for an album. I'm like, yeah, it would actually. That's kind of cool stuff that I like. So anyway, that's.
Well,
That's what
yeah,
I've
so
been
that's more like an archivist pursuit of archivism, more like looking at the past, and nothing wrong with that. But is there anything going on currently that's like, oh, I really like that new Johnny Johnson book, or like
Yeah.
Susie Jefferson album,
I'll
or
have
whatever?
to say that
Anything like that?
I've listened to. So when my last gig working, I worked at the Tattered Cover Cafe. I was the second oldest person that was working there. There's a woman that's been working on and off at Tattered Cover since the mid '80s, and she worked there one day a week. She worked from home, but she worked there one day a week just so she could be a social person, and be alive, like out in society.
Right.
And when I worked there, I worked with these kids they were old enough. I was old enough to be their dad, and it was weird. I just listening to the things that they were into, and they're also kind of nerdy, so lots of musicals and a lot of comic book things and a lot of movies that I really just did have no idea. So luckily I have a tween son now, so I've been to see more, Marvel movies.
Right,
than I probably would have
keeps
ever
you more
seen.
in touch with
Yeah,
what's current.
and a lot of music that he and his friends listen to. But I'm stuck in the 90s when it comes to music, pretty much.
I'm stuck mostly 90s and previous decades.
Yeah, I
'cause
would have to say, 1979 to like 1999. Like that's 20
I'll
years.
say 16. I'll say 64
Yeah.
to
I
20. No, man, because I don't know. I keep it open. I'll still hope to be open-minded enough to notice
I just
it
don't
if
know. I
something
know.
brand new comes along.
Yeah, and so I'll have my son the weekend, and we'll be listening. He'll turn the radio or satellite radio, and he'll find a station on there. And it's new music, and I'm not a snob by any means. I just go like, when I jump in there, it's like grunge, new wave.
So, is there anything your son has turned you on to that's brand new that you're like, wow, that's actually pretty good?
Billy Ivor,
Billy Ivor.
Ivor. I don't know.
Oh, Eilish.
Eilish.
Yeah, I know a publisher who's very big on Billie Eilish.
Yes, Billie
And I was
Eilish,
like, so
okay.
tell me more about this Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
She's like, Eilish? And Eilish.
Tell me
Yes.
more about these.
But I didn't really get the rundown. But what's your impression of Billie Eilish?
I think it's cool, man. I love and a lot of cliche type things, but there's a lot of synth pop that's coming back around. And that's
Not necessarily a bad thing at all.
no,
Like
man,
we love
there's,
Stereolab.
yeah, exactly. Like there was that, and then I could even go back. Before that, who was I?
The Eurythmics were pretty good, even.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of things, like that.
Oh, that.
And my son was like, "Hey, did you know there's a new thing? It's a keyboard guitar." And I was like,
Oh, the guitar,
man,
sure.
you're killing me here. Like
It's a
of course
guitar
going on.
revival.
That was like the thing, man. Hair pooped up to here, and
And I'm trying to remember, somebody actually, it's Claudia Woodman. Do you know Claudia Woodman? She's a local promoter, and she's in a band called Gothsta. Gothsta,
Okay.
like gangsta, but Gothsta.
Uh-huh.
And I've never heard them play, but she's a really cool person, and she invited me or promoted publicizing a guitar fest and plays the guitar herself.
I would love it.
I never learned how, but
No.
it'd probably be a great thing to know how to
It
do.
was very stylish. It was a very stylish way for the keyboard player to step out into the limelight.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I think that's what the whole thing was. It was like, I'm tired of sitting in the back.
I think Howard Jones. No,
No,
he
he
probably
played-
just stayed with the boards.
Well, yeah, he stuck with the boards.
Yeah.
He was up front
Yeah.
with his keyboards.
And I'm glad
Howard
Stereolab
Jones, yeah.
sticks with the boards
I
too.
just went, just 6 weeks ago or so when they came, I went and I've missed them in town, had tickets that shows got canceled, or I had
Stereolab?
a million times in
Oh,
the past.
were they recently here? I didn't
They were
know
recently here, and they were great.
that. I bet I saw them at the Bluebird years ago, and
Yeah.
it was super cool. I'm glad
Yeah, I
I
went
went.
to the Ogden. I helped Peter take down a show that he was doing, and as we were getting done taking down, he was like, "Hey man, you want to go see Stereolab tomorrow night?" I was
Wow.
like, "Yeah, sure, I love it." He's like, "Yeah, we'll go see it," and it was great, and
I
it
bet.
was really good. And I've missed them over the last 20 years.
Huh?
A half a
Me
dozen
too. I
times.
haven't kept up.
A half a dozen times I've missed seeing them.
I mean, I haven't even kept up with what their output.
And they did their hits and they did new stuff too. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was just really cool because I was like, oh, I've missed these guys a million times. And then out of the blue, I was ready to get in my truck, and he was like, hey man, let's go see Stereolab tomorrow. And I was like, oh my god, I wanted to see them. I've missed them.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah, so yeah, so a lot of these new groups, they're heavy on the synth,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm down with that. I'll take it. They're mining some good stuff. I'll run
Mhm.
with it. But other than that, no, I really don't.
Yeah, I like still don't even know what Billie Eilish sounds
Yeah,
like. Even I know she
couldn't
might
name
be
a
one of the
song
cool ones of the new group. But,
Yeah, I couldn't name it. If I the beauty of satellite radio is.
And I'm so full
the
of
name
these
the-
other ideas of what I want to hear that I'm probably never gonna like stop enough
Fully-
to stop and listen to it. I mean, I
embrace it.
shouldn't damn myself out of doing anything ever someday, possibly, but you never know.
You never know. You never know. Well, and I've actually worked a lot of that into one of my bits.
Oh, good.
Segue.
Man, I'm all about time passing and suddenly realizing I'm middle-aged and like, shit, I used to be the young hotshot. And
Yeah.
now all the shit that I used to be so good at is like totally falling out of favor and
Well, I
nobody
have some,
cares. And
part of one of my
I want to hear it.
it's part of one of them is with this old guitar is this is a guitar that I discovered when I was goofing around. My brother and I are both. I'm pushing 50. My brother's in his mid 40s, and my parents lived in the same house for 45 years, and all of us still have this. We still have tons of shit over there. So I've found several ancient guitars, old electric guitars, and some old amps and stuff that I didn't even know I had, because I've gotten rid of so much stuff in my life. I've worked that into my bit a little bit.
All right, yeah.
These things.
You're like, now this guitar, I found this in the basement of my parents' house just
That's
last
exactly-
week. I've
that's-
had so many guitars in my day. I tell you about the
I've had everything.
Stratocaster I once had. No, I'm sorry.
No, I've had. No,
That
actually,
sounds like a
that's-
really
that's
interesting
actually, That
routine.
actually is almost line for line several lines in my bit is all the equipment that I've had throughout the years and
Wow.
what different and how a lot of my feelings of loss for a lot of the equipment is not that the fact that it's a material thing that's missing. It's the sentimental value
And
that
the
goes along with a lot of
symbolic-
these symbolism, the time in my life that I had these things, and then now they're not there anymore. I
Yeah.
got to sell it, pawn it, went missing, got stolen, whatever. All these, I've had amps and guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I still have quite a bit of the stuff, but a lot of great stuff is gone. And once again, you can always go buy a new amplifier, and you can always go do this, that, and the other. It's not the money aspect. It's like, oh my God, we got done playing.
I remember
we got
the
done playing
mark
show,
in
and
my
this
sub.
guy was moving, and he was like, "Did you like playing to my amp?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You got $100 on you? This thing's worth like $1,000. You got $100? I'm leaving tomorrow on a Greyhound or something like that." It's like, "I'll give it to you for $100." It's like, "Yeah, man." You go up to your friends, "Anybody got any money? Help me buy this. This thing's worth like $1,000. I'm gonna get it off this kid for $100." Like, that kind of shit. And then, you move, you do a midnight move out of an apartment, and you're like, "Oh shit, I left something there." And you come back and the landlord's taken it or something. So you're like, crap.
Yeah, they're more like marks on the
Yeah.
totem pole or
Yeah,
something.
notch on the whatever.
Notch on the tree or something. Yeah.
So.
Well, shucks. I didn't want to do much editing, but man, I've noticed a couple times where I said things that I shouldn't have that I'm gonna have to. But the editing process is a lot simpler than I'm making it out to be, and I think I've come a long way in understanding
Yeah,
it
you
since the first recording.
Yeah, well, it's a new thing for you too, so. I know I'm leaning back in my chair and squeaking a lot.
So there was something that you were talking about Stereolab, and I was thinking about a band, and there was something about a band, and I was going, "Oh, did you hear the new whatever?" But I can't think of what the heck I was trying to come up with there. But it has to do with some band, and it had something to do with Stereolab inspiring me to it, and it has something to do with like a new album that I've just heard from some band that was also something I discovered in the days of St. Mark's.
Well, Beck has a new album out.
When I discovered Stereolab, wasn't Beck.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Oh, well, or just, yeah, I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
It'll come back to me if it wants to. So I'll say this, like, I have a close friend who I really wanted to appear on this episode, and she said, "Well, I just don't like podcasts. I never listen to podcasts," and I'm realizing, well, gosh, that I don't either. I've never have really. I mean, I've heard a couple of things here and there, but I'm not trying to really do a podcast so much as just trying to do this thing in this venue, like to have a conversation, like a stage, not stage like it's inauthentic, but to set up a conversation with microphones and everything like this. And it is a little bit inauthentic because it does require all this prosthesis of a recording studio to make it official somehow. But I'm really just sort of trying to have a conversation each episode with whoever's interested in joining the conversation. And there isn't really a theme beyond, like, what are people doing? What are they doing? And today it ended up being a lot about Colfax and Cuba Cuba and the museum. And Johnny Barber didn't even show up.
Yeah, and it still got work.
And I mean, we're pretty much, I mean, we can wait a little bit longer, but I don't know if there's,
I think at this point.
I think we're sort of spent.
Yeah.
Like, we need another guest, really, to make this, I mean, and no blame, because there's been this blizzard or something. I don't know how bad it is up there by now. But, yeah, maybe we should just pull the plug. I don't know. I told him, like, he said 5, but it's 5:40, and he could still speak for 20 minutes. It would be great. I'll just go ahead and cue up the music, though, here in a
You
minute.
just have to be like every other talk show host where guest gets bumped. We'll have you on tomorrow night.
All right, I'm glad you guys all came again to Camp Elasticity. It's episode 2 this time. We had Kayla Ferguson, we had Mona Lucero, we had Chris Barker, we had Doug Folk on the Wheels of Steel. And it was good. It could have been better, but we blame no one. We're glad that it snowed. We're glad there was a snowstorm and a blizzard and there's traffic occlusion and God knows what else. But this will be online again very soon, and it'll be also up to KUVO radio, and it'll be on a YouTube video. So thanks for coming, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. We've got about 20 minutes, so you're right on time.
Oh,
It's
perfect. All right, let's do this. You want, where do I
He's
go?
got
Here,
to. He's
there?
got to set this up again. You can sit anywhere you like.
Say over there. All right. Be in the heart of the action. This is a cool spot to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So this is
literary.
Chris Barker. That's
All
Doug
right.
Folk. That's Johnny Barber.
Yeah.
And you just let us know when you're ready. You ready?
Oh yeah.
All right. So Johnny, what's going on with the Colfax Museum right now? You've been at that for years.
Oh, that is just the question of the century, is it not? Let's say the short version of it is everything's now in storage. It's safely
Right.
out of Lakewood. So we're extracted from the flood zone. And after kind of all the ups and downs,
So it flooded again. That's happened to you more than once, hasn't it?
well,
Flooded.
yeah, it flooded kind of at the beginning when I moved in. And the original room that we were going to move into, where it was a lumber yard, so these trucks would drive. Once it flooded, you could see where the recession in the floor was for the big trucks, where the water would kind of flow into.
Right.
But I actually had this
So you knew where
dream.
not to store
I feel like
things.
very blessed. I feel like the creator completely wants to see this museum happen because
Yes.
the original room we were going to move it into, right? I had this dream. It was like 3 a.m, just like, you've got to move your stuff to this. There was a back room in the building that had a 2.5-foot
Wow.
elevation in the floor from the room I was in. And I had this dream in the middle of the night. So I actually woke up my son and I dragged him out to Lakewood in the middle of the night, and we moved all my stuff into this
Wow.
other room.
So
And
you
then-
felt
and-
that much of a charge from it, like,
Oh, yeah.
this is a premonition.
Oh, whenever that happens to me, I act, because it's always to great peril and
Right,
detriment if I
right.
don't listen, generally.
Wow.
So I act on that kind of stuff. So, before that, okay, when it was in the original building, Colfax and Cremeria, same thing. I had a dream. We were moving everything out of there because she sold the building. And I had this dream that was like, you got to
Wow,
go and get
premonition again,
the rest
wow.
of your stuff. You got to get the rest of the museum out right now. And I was like, okay. And there wasn't that much left. But I said, fine, grab my son. God bless you, son. What a good son, right?
Yeah, no
and,
kidding.
Grabbed the son, hauled him down to the museum, hauled everything out in the middle of the night. Okay, I get a text at 7 a.m. that next morning from the owner of the store, Lydia, that was like, "Oh my God, we're so glad you got everything out of here. This place almost caught on fire
Wow.
last night. Like the whole electrical panel in the back of the building shorted out, and there was kind of an arc that came off it, like the Holy Ghost."
And if there had been stuff there, it would have caught, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
we narrowly avoided fire. Then we move out to the Lakewood, and there was that first flood. So that was in
I remember
July
the first, yeah.
of when we first moved out there, And but I thought everything's okay, you know, because I moved into this upper room and I thought we're good. And it was a good 2.5 feet above the other space. So fast forward another year, there was 2 floods that came through. There was this crazy storm. I mean, the sky opened up just biblical level. And so I was like, that's it. I'm packing everything up. That's it. So I had everything in boxes, everything ready to go. I was going to bring the truck and move everything in there. And then another flood hit. And this one hit when everything was, you know, ready to move. So it was probably, you know.
Wow.
But like I told you, the creator wants to see this happen. I mean, I was curating a show for
or she,
the airport for DIA. Asked me to curate a show out on Concourse A in that glass walking bridge, which I did. And then they asked me, the show had ended in June, but then they asked me, hey, do you want to extend the show another month? It's been so popular. I said, sure. And if I hadn't extended the show for that month, all that stuff would have been in the museum and would have got hit by the flood. So we got everything up there. But then, like, okay, I found out about this flood on Twitter. Okay, I was just flipping through, scrolling on my phone, and someone posted this footage of, like, Lakewood 10 minutes ago. And it was like the deluge.
Wow.
Just the deluge. And and there she is, my wife, you know, she walks in, of course, when her name Anastasia is mentioned. Your timing is splendid as always, my darling. Anyway, so we're on this hot date on a Saturday night. And I just, you know, flip through the thing and see the flood. So, you know, she spends the rest of the night. We go out there, and that 2.5-foot elevation room had flooded.
Wow.
So much water came through. My friend Tom, who lives out there, he's a homeless guy, lives out back. And I can always count on him to pitch in and help me out. You know, just a great guy. But he said the water was waist deep. He was crossing over. The back of that whole road had turned into a river. So now, as a result of all this, the city of Lakewood is far more proactive. They got a whole plan now to remediate this flooding. They're finally like, this really is something we need to address, which is good. So narrowly avoided a few things, and then, you know, it's been... You got to figure if you do anything with Colfax, though, that you're just asking for it. I mean, you can't think that you're gonna skate in and it's just gonna be just, you know, a bed of roses. I mean, you
I
gotta
saw
know
your
the
post
subject
when you
matter.
said you'd done this for so long with no support from the city. You're finally throwing in the towel. It really tugged at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
Then it was maybe like a week later, and you're like, you know, I'm not gonna really give up. I'm gonna keep doing this.
I'll tell you what happened in that week. Okay, so. You know, beyond the flood, there was all kinds of people politics and city politics and other things going on that I just have not gone public with. Just to, you know, I have my own Colfax Gate. That is just someday I'll write a book about it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just been a struggle on a lot of levels, certainly financially. I mean, people have to realize that a museum is not a for-profit enterprise. It's a non-profit corporation for a reason. It requires subsidy to exist. And so when people look at me and they keep asking, well, what's your business plan? What's your plan for profitability? How are you going to make all this? I'm like, let me tally for you all the money I've made working on Colfax Avenue for 15 years.
Why are they so hard to win
$300.
over?
$300, Zach,
Wow.
for 15 years of work.
Why don't they recognize why is it not valuable an idea to preserve the history of Colfax? Why
tell me.
Why are you not getting any support?
You tell me. Okay,
My
so this
God.
is why I decided
Well,
to
tell
do
us
it again.
what
Is I said, okay, the Denver Post runs this big feature that I'm having a fire sale and I'm liquidating the collection. And it's all over, you know, the
It's
internet.
all good. He's
Johnny
finally
B's
out of here.
unloading. Right. My
Wow.
phone is ringing off the hook
Oh.
from people that want to cherry pick the
It's like they've
collection.
been waiting the whole
Money
time.
is flowing
Oh.
right when it's time to cherry pick the collection.
My God.
But when it's like, make a donation so we can put this stuff in a museum and everyone can enjoy it. Yeah, crickets.
What? No, they just want their own little
No,
piece.
they want
don't
their
want to
piece of
share it.
I
I
had
can
someone.
tell you
crazy.
why the
Yeah.
government agencies aren't stepping in.
Oh, wife, step on in. Tell me why the government isn't stepping in to help us.
Well, because again, you're tired of me talking about this, but it comes down to risk assessment. Usually, government agencies and government employees they don't think in terms of like, wow, what a boon, what a benefit, wow, this is going to be great. They're thinking like, oh, what could go wrong? How could we get in trouble? What could backfire? What's the risk assessment? And Colfax is risky.
Just because it has such a bad reputation, or even like statistical reputation.
Right. I mean, it's got its glory days and glory moments and beauty. Of course, we know that, but it's got some.
It has a negative association.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's. I think, personally, my feeling is that it's too risky. Especially
Right.
with somebody else running it.
See, I believe that
somebody
too.
else
I
at the
think
helm.
even conservative people, that would have a lot of money. I mean, they're asking, would I want my name on a plaque in a Colfax museum?
Yeah,
It's kind of a
it's
dubious honor, maybe. So there's a lot of reasons, but so Mike King, right, son of Sid King, the Sultan of Striptease that ran Sid King's Crazy Horse Bar, now the Irish Snug on East Colfax. Mike gave me a call because he saw the article and he said, I understand you're selling the neon
I saw
sign
that
and the
post.
mannequins from Sid King's, and I'd like to buy them. I said, great, well, let's start the dialogue. He's like, great, I'll call you on Monday. Well, he calls me back on Monday because I slept on it over the weekend, and I just got to say, Johnny, I love the idea of a Colfax museum, and I would way rather see my dad's stuff in a Colfax museum. I think that's super cool. Is there any way I can just make a donation to so you can hold on to the sign and get everything refurbished? And then he's working on a musical about his dad, Sid King, the musical in New York, which is really funny.
That's
and a
great.
production. And so he said, well, can I borrow, I'll give you a donation if I can borrow the sign for my show. I said, done. But it really did kind of, I'm a punk rocker, man. I grew up punk rock. That movie SLC Punk. I grew up in Salt Lake City. Those are all my friends in that movie. And that was, so the punk rocker in me was just like, everyone come in and, well, we want to cherry pick this or take this. I'm just like, no!
Good for you.
No.
Yeah.
And then after talking with Mike King, and he's like, well, I'll help you out and whatever. So maybe what'll carry the museum from here on is spite. Maybe it'll just be like, I don't care. The doubters,
Or spunk.
or that, something. But I've heard from everybody, and just everybody has come in there. People from out of the country, heard about it and came in. People from Spain. There was people from Spain and England and all over that knew more about Denver history than most people I know that live here. And the other mystery to me was all the transplants. Like, why, if you were a transplant, if I showed up in a new city and I knew nothing about your town, wouldn't
you
that
want
be
there
the
to be
first place you'd want to go?
Yeah.
Walk into the Colfax Museum, I'll have you talking like a local in an hour. You know what I mean? I will give you enough. And so I had some people that, there was one really just beautiful interracial couple I remember from New Orleans that came with their baby and everything, and they just loved it. And you start telling the stories about Pam Grier went to East High, and Don Cheadle, and
Sure.
Hattie McDaniel, hey, first African American to win an Academy Award, went to high school on Colfax. Obama took his, accepted his Democratic, the nomination right off Colfax. There's just so much. Even the fact that Schuyler Colfax was the one who ratified the Emancipation Proclamation freeing the slaves. He was the
And
Speaker
he sort of
the House.
looked like Abe Lincoln too, and they
And
were
he
friends,
looked a lot,
right?
and they were associates. So you look at even our state capitol, is on the corner of Colfax and Lincoln, and and so I get amazed, when the black community or African American community in town, when they'll come in and they don't know who Schuyler Colfax is. I'm like, man, Schuyler Colfax right behind Martin Luther King Jr. You don't have freedom. Civil rights isn't even on the table.
Almost no one does really know who that is anymore.
And
I
you
was
would
I
think,
brought
and
up
then
the
when they
name
find
the other
out,
day.
and then when you tell them, and you go, hey, like I said, these people from New Orleans, wow, Schuyler Colfax freed the slaves. I'm like, every time you drive
You've
down
sort
the
of
street,
cornered the
you're
market
sort of
on
like
that.
Colfax, yeah, right. I think it's exciting,
I do too.
and even if, we could talk about the national history even further real fast.
Oh, yeah.
Schuyler Colfax's grandfather William Colfax was the captain of George Washington's personal guard. Actually fought in every major battle in the Revolutionary War, survived Bunker Hill, survived Valley Forge. And then they retired him, right? And then they called him back up for the War of 1812, and he fought the entire War of 1812 and lived. So William Colfax rode with George Washington to Cornwallis's surrender
And
at
this
Yorktown.
is Schuyler's father
This is
or grandfather?
grandfather. Rode with George Washington to Cornwallis's
we've been
surrender down the Braddock's Road that later became part of the National Road that later became Highway 40. So the same road that George Washington rode with Schuyler's grandfather down to Yorktown is the same road that runs in front of Casa Bonita.
Colfax is the road of America.
It is the road of America.
So are there any Elvis connections?
The Elvis connection, okay, amazingly, okay. So I was singing for Jerry Kennedy, old Denver police captain. He was most famously on board the Lisa Marie, which is Elvis's jet, the night that they flew. Yeah, right. Yeah, that they flew from Graceland. This is the Fool's Gold sandwich story.
Oh, yeah.
If you're familiar with that one, Denver
Possibly,
Lord.
but I should say I used to work in a market research place that supposedly overlooked the restaurant where there used to be the restaurant where he first had his peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Yeah. Nick's
Possibly.
Cafe, 777 1/2 Sims. Nick's still out there making these sandwiches. Okay, so Captain Jerry Kennedy was there in the jungle room with Elvis, with Ron Petrofesso, who was a Denver Vice Squad a cop, right? And they were like, it was Lisa Marie, Elvis's daughter's 8th birthday. They're like, what are we gonna do? Hey, let's just for fun, let's grab the jet, fly out to Denver, and get some of those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bacon and everything. And it was the Colorado Mine Company in Glendale.
Yeah.
That's
Where I used to work, right above where it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the sandwiches were originally made. So anyway, to get to Colfax story, so I sang for Jerry Kennedy's 80th birthday. Did an Elvis show for him and his family. And when I get done, he walks me out to his car and opens the trunk, and he's like, I got something I want to give you. And he hands me this 150-pound brass plaque that used to hang in the gymnasium that Elvis built for the Denver police back in the 70s.
Wow.
And
Elvis.
the intro on this plaque tells the story of an Officer Merle Nading. Really sad story. Officer Merle Nading was killed in the line of duty at Colfax, on Colfax. So this plaque actually mentions this officer being slain on Colfax being the impetus that led Elvis to provide the money to build this gym.
And nobody much would know that there was a plaque saying Elvis Presley, you know, contributed money to build this gym, or like it paid for the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's great to know.
And well, I've heard stories when Elvis was in town that he drove down Colfax to Sloan's Lake, and people said they could see a sequined hand throwing money out the window of his limo.
Oh, Elvis.
So he also went, as I understand, was a guest of Sid King's at the Crazy Horse Bar. That Elvis went there a few times too. So. So the Kings got some, and then you got the Velvet Elvis, obviously.
Right.
We were doing these sightings just to prove how out there Colfax can be, right? So one year, Ryan Criss, you familiar with Ryan?
Yeah.
He's a country singer in town. But anyway, he's got the whole Jesus outfit. And I had the whole Elvis thing, and so we decided one day, I mean, he had the crown of thorns and the beard and the sandals, like the whole deal. So we just decided, let's go down to Colfax and sit at the Burger King there in the window and just have Jesus and Elvis enjoying a cheeseburger and just see, like, if anyone would actually say anything. No one did.
No one?
No one even blinked. No one even blinked, okay? So later we're like, well, let's push the theory even further. So they put these banners, they have those banners running down the street.
Yeah, sure.
Well, for
Carl
a while there
Christian
they had a banner of me and one of Ryan, and but the city wouldn't give us one, and so we're just like, we're gonna steal one. So here's Jesus and Elvis walking down Colfax with a 3-story ladder in broad daylight,
Just changing
putting
the
it up
banner.
on the thing, climbing up, and just like lifting,
That's great.
our banner from the street. And still, no one said anything. No, it's just Colfax. You know?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then Ryan, at the end of our trip, doing this, we're walking down by the Immaculate Conception on Colfax, and all these people are honking at Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And I go, Ryan, look down. And he looks down, and when the cement was drying and the part of the sidewalk where he was standing, someone actually carved Jesus
Oh no.
in, and it was dried
Gotta take
into
a
the
shot.
sidewalk. And I'm like, dude, you're even like in your perfect spot.
Wow.
So it's a beautiful street. I hope we can get something going, and I want to get a GoFundMe going and raise some money.
That's
and,
a good idea. I'm going
And
to
see
do
if
that
we
soon
can
too.
get some people to rally behind this thing, because I have proven that the idea is insanely popular. And I also know for a fact that I am far from alone being like a fanatic or lover of Colfax. Like everybody, anyone who grew up here, anyone who's been around, and people just love it. Artists, musicians, all kinds of people draw their inspiration from it and continue to. And I also think the big part of it is guiding kind of, they're proposing some pretty radical changes to Colfax right now.
Oh, so I hear.
And have declared, East Denver the next district of, redevelopment interest, and they even declared
I was
it
talking
a
about.
blighted
I was
district.
talking about
And-
that earlier. Like, how long is
Yeah.
it going to be before they start gentrifying the eastern side of Colfax, east of Colorado Boulevard?
Well, they're
Doesn't
moving
seem to
on
have
it.
changed
about,
much yet.
About 4 or 5 of those motels have changed hands in the last 6 months. So
Oh.
I mean, it's happening. There's
It
there's
is.
Rhino money. There's some other, those places, Highlands, Rhino, they're kind of built out. They're kind of they're going to keep building, but you know what I mean. They're looking for that
The
development,
untouched stuff.
whatever they call it, an opportunity area or whatever euphemism.
Economic zone.
And
Yeah,
people
an
were talking
economic
about how
zone.
Colfax
Yes, thank
sort
you.
of never changes. Like, they develop and develop and develop, but Colfax just sort of never changes. An earlier guest was saying
Yeah.
that. I don't know if that can really stay true anymore.
It's preservation by neglect. I mean, I think its bad reputation helped it in that regard. It kept people kind of away, or they were kind of reticent, but not anymore, man. I mean, you drive from Colorado to Broadway in that stretch, and, those homes you could have got for $100,000 or less when I first moved to Denver, and they're in the millions now. And there's places to go there to eat where the entry-level entree is $24, $25. Yeah, that's Colfax
Yeah,
prices,
that's a
bro.
big change.
But it also, Colfax was the nicest street in Denver when it started. So
When it
it's-
started.
it's got a ways to go to be fully gentrified. But East Denver from what would it be, Montview out to what is it, the Yosemite. That's the area that's going to change the quickest. Aurora and Lakewood have got a little ways, as we found. Lakewood's got that flooding thing. Apparently, with further research, I found out that about 70% of West Colfax and Lakewood is a flood zone. It's actually on the FEMA website, thanks
it's
to
on the
my...
alluvial fields.
Yeah, it's an alluvial field
Uh.
even. So thank you. My wife is a
Rain
water
magnet.
expert, and she did the FEMA research.
Right.
So check back, friend us on the Facebook page.
Yeah, because we're about to close out. We're about to run out of time. So give me any information, like your Facebook page. You have a website or a phone
Yeah.
number, email, anything like
Yeah, it's
that?
just thecolfaxmuseum.org
Excellent.
or facebook.com/thecolfaxmuseum. And it's got my number and email on there. And if, I'd like to say call me with any suggestions or ideas, but really just call me to write a check. I know what to do.
He deserves it.
I know what to do. I've been working on this for 15 years.
And you've had a magazine, you had Colfax Avenue, and you've had so
Yeah.
many incarnations of the Colfax Museum itself.
Yeah, exactly.
You are definitely dedicated.
It's been an obsession, but worth it. I learned something new about Colfax every day.
I bet. And you're here to teach everyone else something new about Colfax every day.
We could. I'll just meet you here tomorrow.
Not necessarily
1,000
here.
a
Somewhere in the
1,001
world.
nights of
Wherever you are
Colfax.
in the world, I'm sure Colfax comes up, you're going to teach whoever your interlocutor is something new.
Well, I think the other thing that's really eye-awakening is that Colfax, it really is world famous. It's not something, I mean, and I think that's where the city and a lot of these people, you know, they're myopic in their vision. They're looking at the immediate neighborhood. How
From
does
a
this
local
affect people
perspective.
that just live right here, work here, whatever? And they don't get that it historically was a tourist destination. It was the tourist strip of the Rocky Mountain area. So, you know, when people, I heard some millennial on Instagram all like, I saw a tourist on Colfax the other day, it was so weird. And I'm like, that just shows that you're young and you just don't know.
How did you first get hooked? I know we're out of time. Just one question.
Yeah.
How did you first get hooked on Colfax? What first?
Fell in love with my wife of 23 years, Anastasia, Dawn Barber over there.
We lived right. a
We lived
block.
behind the Lion's Lair.
And it was just part of the whole romantic field of play.
We're jaunting and
Mm-hmm.
cheap dates.
Yeah.
Wandering around Colfax, no car needed.
Yeah, it was cheap. I think our apartment was